What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of DC Action Hour! Yay! All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Jeff. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. This is the show where we talk all the DC shows on the CW. So that's Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. I'm joined once again by our awesome guest co-host from the Points of Interest Podcast Network, Francis Fernandez.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back, sir. And we're very excited. Our special guests tonight, they are the authors of both an official Flash and Arrow novel that tie in with the DC shows. It's Clay and Susan Griffith. Hi, how are you doing?
Hello. Good. Hey, how are you?
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. They're also the authors of some
pleasure.
other really awesome novels. We will talk more about all that, though, a little later in the show, so stay tuned for that. If you're in the live chat, please chat away there. I already see our buddy Lister's Mate is there. He's excited that he was the first in the chat. He says it's an accomplishment. It is, sir. I wish I had a prize for you, but I don't. But your prize is that you're awesome. How about that?
It's a pretty good prize.
Yes, it is.
It's a good prize.
So feel free, any questions, comments, we want to hear from you in the chat. Or you can tweet us at Super Geeked Up as well. And if you're watching in post, always you can post your comments in the description section there on the YouTube. All right. Oh, and Kerry Johnson just joined us in the chat. He says, hey, folks. Hello, Kerry. Thank you, as always, for watching us. Appreciate it. All right. Francis, as you know, we like to start with our super tweet question, which is the fun question we're going to kick things off with. What's that question this week?
That's right. And I have to do my voice when I'm
your
doing
announcer
it.
Voice, yes.
Announcer voice. All right. For our super tweet this week, if you could have any storyline happen in any of the DC CW shows, what would it be? All right.
Now we want to hear from you, folks, in the chat. I mean, this literally could be anything you want. It could be, I don't know, I guess like a more larger storyline. It could be like a throwaway standalone thing. It could be something goofy, whatever you'd like. Let's start with our guests. How about that? So, Susan, do you have any? Yeah.
Mine is, I'm a big fan of the old Batman adventures, the Justice League Unlimited and all those.
Oh, yeah.
The classic Paul Dini stories. And one of them that they had on there was The Question and the Huntress. And
my God, yes.
And I really would love to see The Question come in. And, there's so much of the dirty underside, that gritty side to Starling City, that I really would like to see him come in and do just a little brief thing. He doesn't have to be a regular, because I think we got way too many characters as it is on the show sometimes. So just like a small thing about him taming the Huntress a little bit and maybe trying to bring her back from the madness that she's been going on, because I really don't want Arrow to have to do that. I sort of think that needs to come from a different direction.
Awesome. Before I geek out about that, just tell us, folks, tell me how the videos play in the chat. I'm getting some interesting readings here on my software, which I don't particularly like. So tell me if we're playing okay. I will restart if we need to. So we talk about Huntress all the time on the show because she's my favorite character, pretty much. And also, I love the question. Like the question, I've always loved the question, and those are some of my favorite episodes from the Justice League Unlimited is Huntress and question stuff. So that's a great choice. All right, Clay, do you have something you'd like to see for the super tweet question? Any storyline? All right, I think they may be lagging again. That's what I'm guessing. Francis, are you still there with me?
I am here.
So Francis, I'm going to go to you.
Certainly. Right now, there's currently a storyline where the Watchmen are entwined with the DC universe, and because they are going to be having a Watchmen show at some point, they're going to have a series. It'd be really cool to kind of see that kind of crossover happen in our current DC CW lineup. Just to see the comedian every once in a while, or maybe seeing Rorschach, Well, I guess it'd have to be dead, but Rorschach just bouncing about everywhere. That'd be kind of cool to see, or the Owl in our current DC CW lineup. So I wouldn't mind that. That's a bit of a storyline that I would certainly love to see happen with our current lineup.
Sweet. Rorschach bouncing around. All right.
Well, he's a bouncer.
Yeah, as he likes to do. In the chat, Bookish Spider said, I heard something about authors. Yes, you did. Our guests are awesome authors. We're going to hear more about them in just a minute. So stick around. Lister's mate in the chat says his answer to the super tweet would be any story with Jennifer Walters, aka the She-Hulk, will work for me. You know how much I love her. That would be very interesting, since that would be a Marvel person coming over to DC. It has happened one time before in the comics. True. They did the amalgam like thing. You never know. It could happen again, I suppose. That would be fun. I agree. All right. So now I think hopefully that you can hear me again, Clay. Do you have an answer to this? Great.
Yeah. Well, I have two. Other than making Gorilla Grodd a weekly member of the team, I can't imagine not wanting to have Gorilla Grodd every week hanging out. I would love to see in the Green Arrow, the old Green Arrow, Green Lantern storyline from the 70s. It's a little difficult because they don't play Arrow the way the comics played Green Arrow as this sort of wild anarchist hippie. But you could alter him a little bit. You could still kind of get that road trip across America thing going with the two of them if they wanted to bring that in. And they could, sort of pose like Neil Adams' artwork, and that would be good.
I like that.
Nice.
I like the road trip aspect that amuses me.
I don't see why not.
All right.
Maybe Flashing Rod doing a road trip.
Yeah.
Oh, worry. What better pairing than the sweet gorilla? Not bad. Yeah.
Sweet. Speaking of Grodd, David Sobolov, who voices Grodd, will be a guest on our show coming up on a later episode of the season. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
Yeah. In the chat, Carrie Johnson says, I want the true Legion of Doom. We have most/all of the players. Yes, I agree. It would be nice to be not that weird Legion of Doom we saw on Legends. The true one would be cool. Lister's mate says, I thought Francis said Marvel or DC. No. Maybe he subliminally
threw it out there.
Threw it out there, yeah. He snuck it in. So my answer is just kind of goofy. I'm just going to stick with the characters from the show. On Flash, I would love Barry and Cisco to kind of go on have this buddy comedy episode that has nothing really to do with any other episode. I want to have like a buddy comedy where they go to some Comic-Con and they have to foil some villainous plot to like ruin the Comic-Con or steal some famous comic like Amazing Fantasy 15 or something like that. And that's the thing, yes. So there's just some goofy villains trying to do that, and they're just because I think Barry and Cisco just I like when I get to see them geek out together, and I think if the whole episode was just that one time, I would love that.
I'd be fine with that.
Good idea.
Thank you.
I mean, they've done it on Supernatural, so just them going into conventions and doing stuff. I think it'd be kind of fun to see something like that, done on Flash and Arrow, and they can certainly do it.
Yeah. I mean, actually, even Smallville did one where he went to a convention, a Comic-Con.
Exactly.
I think Zatanna was in that episode, actually. Yeah. And you know what? Actually, you guys, I won't give anything away, but in your Flash novel that I'm reading right now, you have Barry and Cisco kind of meeting some kind of this guy they geek out about, actually. Like a scientist type theory. So that was fun. All right.
Yeah. In fact, that was a much longer scene originally. We cut it back because it was so much fun just to write the two of them in a van together, driving around. Yeah. It turned into kind of a Scooby-Doo thing, and we had to kind of...
Well, Scooby-Doo is actually my all-time favorite cartoon, so I'm totally down with that. Ooh, maybe we could do a Scooby-Doo DC TV mashup.
I'm fairly certain maybe not TV, but I'm certain they've done a comic of DC and Scooby.
But Scooby, Scooby they would always bring in those like famous guest stars, so that could totally work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Batman and Robin, yeah, they had Batman and Robin. You're right.
Batman and Robin in there for a little bit.
Let's get in the animated versions because they do the animated shows like Vixen and Constantine, right?
So maybe the Harlem Globetrotters could show up on.
If only people knew who the Harlem Globetrotters
are. I know exactly. Oh, I do, and I know that. I watched that. I watched that Scooby movie. Yeah, that was great.
Stop dating us, Clay.
I'm with you, man. I'm totally with you. It's cool.
Okay, good.
In the chat, Carrie Johnson says, "I would also watch Barry and Iris counseling adventures." That has to do with this week's episode. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that for sure. That's a great Carrie. That's funny. All right, guys. So I'm going to assume the stream is playing okay, since apparently you're hearing everything we're saying, folks, in the stream. So let me know if not. All right. So now let's talk. We are going to talk about all the week 2 episodes of the new seasons of all the shows in just a little bit. But first, let's talk more to our guests here. So again, if you weren't with us at the beginning, this is Clay and Susan Griffith. So in terms of DC TV shows, they've written 2 novels: The Flash, The Haunting of Barry Allen; Arrow, Generation of Vipers, which they actually tie in together. The Flash is the first one, then they go into the Arrow one. But they also have their own original IP, which is Vampire Empire and Crown and Key. There are, I think both of those are a trilogy at the moment, right?
Yep.
Cool.
No, there are 4 Vampire Empires.
Oh, 4. I didn't know that. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about all that. ClayandSusanGriffith.com. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's where you can find out more information. But, so first thing I want you to tell you before we get into your books, I want you to tell people how you guys met. Because it's totally how I hope to meet my future wife.
Okay.
Nice.
Back many, many years ago in the 1980s, which I'm sure you've heard of.
My favorite what are you talking about? My favorite decade. I love the 80s.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Best movies, best music. Come on.
See, there you go. Best
True.
comic books.
It's true.
Yeah.
I was working at B. Dalton Bookseller, which I
Oh, I remember. I always thought he was going there.
Yeah, there you go. It was in a mall, of course. They all were. And I worked there, and Susan was a customer, and she came in and bought a copy of X-Men 201. He's like a full-fledged villain. I'm not sure. But anyway,
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. 1 second. I lost audio for a little bit there. So unfortunately, the stream missed part of that story. So just real quick, if you missed it, folks, he was working at B. Dalton Booksellers, a bookstore in the mall in the 80s. Susan came in and was buying Uncanny X-Men number 201. That's if you missed that.
Yeah. So the myth has become that I gave away the ending.
Myth.
To the comic.
Myth.
Yes. That I told her that Storm won, and now I'm giving it away to anyone else who hasn't. But so we started talking, and then some years later we got married. That's the end of the story.
I think it was his ploy to try and he had to apologize later by taking me out for coffee. Like, oh, I think I was just his lead-in to get a date.
That wasn't his way of impressing you. He was trying to show off.
Yeah.
Oh, I've already read this issue.
Exactly. No.
Smooth.
All right. So what I'm getting out of this is, in order to get a girlfriend who will become my wife, I need to ruin some story for her, some comic or movie for her. Is that weird? So that I can apologize to crowd.
Yeah. That was my go-to move.
Your goal is to spoil stuff for other people.
It doesn't always work. Trust me.
All right.
This,
Well, Francis, maybe you and I could try that at next Comic-Con, and we'll see if it
There you go.
we'll have to try that out. Oh, man.
All right.
Certainly.
That's a great story, though. I love it. All right, let's talk, since this is DC Action Hour, let's start with talking about your Flash and Arrow novels. First, can you tell people a little bit about the novels? Obviously not giving anything away, but maybe just tell people a little bit about, they are kind of maybe aware, they're kind of set in terms of the whole, where we are in the TV verse now.
Well, they kept it kind of ambiguous. That was our instruction, but it sort of takes place. Book season 2 for Flash, and season 3, I think, for Arrow.
Closer to 4, but we're trying to be vague.
Yeah, that was our instruction, not to pinpoint it, but you sort of have to after a while because events occur and you have to deal and discuss with it a little bit within the books. So they're pinpointed right around season 2 for Flash. So right after the right in the beginning of season 2 for Flash, right after the wormhole.
Yeah, they wanted it to be like so, like a fill-in issue of a comic that could fit in, so it didn't do damage to continuity, but you kind of understood where it was. But the fact is, with a serialized show, certain characters are alive, certain characters are dead, some are in the group and some are not. So we have a lot of readers who are trying to pinpoint it within the season based on who's in the group and who's not, and who do they talk about, and who the villains are, etc. But we tried to keep it as vague as possible.
Sweet. So the chat and Francis are telling me that I sound like Barry White, which is
You do.
awesome.
Yeah.
Great. That might help me get some women, I think. As long as I also do, if I ruin some comics for them as well. So, folks, let me do this because I want to change something. I'm going to stop the stream for 30 seconds. That's all it's going to take me. I'm going to restart it. Let me just change some settings real quick. Don't go anywhere, folks. Literally, it'll take me 30 seconds. All right, I'll restart.
All right, hey, we're back. I'm no longer Kool-Aid Man / Barry White. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're here. It's a continuation of DC Action Hour with Clay and Susan Griffith, authors of Flash and Arrow novels. All right, so you guys just told us about like kind of where they replaced the novels and stuff. So you were talking about like kind of where they told you. So actually, I'm interested to hear that. How did this work? Like, were you pitching different ideas to DC, Warner Bros., or whoever is the one in charge of this? Did they have to approve things? Like that kind of,
Yeah. Originally, I was gonna say we got the contract from Titan Books, who owns the license, who got to get a portion of the license and do the books. So we had to pitch to them, and then also to the CW what our storylines were. And Clay can take it off from there. And
well, they wanted to choose, so we gave them 3 or 4 Flash ideas and 3 or 4 Arrow ideas, and they picked. And then as we wrote the books, we had a contact in the production office, and we would submit questions to him. Hey, can we do this? Can we use this character? Or they would write back and go, hey, don't use this person because we have plans for them, or we don't know exactly how they're going to turn out. We had an issue with Arrow where we had a particular setting we wanted to use, and they said, no, don't use that because we're going to use it in the show. And I said, well, how about this? And they said, no, don't use that either because it was the Queen Mansion. Yeah. We were going to use the Queen Mansion, and they came back and said, no, the Queen Mansion burned down in one of the comic books, not in the show, but in one of the comic books. So we used the burned up Queen Mansion. Actually, it worked best.
It worked better actually.
So they had to pick and choose and change, but they were very helpful. We've worked with a lot of different licensing properties, and these guys were pretty good.
Oh, sweet, good. I'm glad to hear that. Francis, you have any questions like that?
Yeah. I guess I have a
Well, actually, let me ask you this: any DC, any Arrow Flash novel questions first before we move on to any of their novels?
Well, I mean, I was going to ask that because I was curious if this was something that just popped into your mind one day. Oh, well, we really want to write about Arrow and Flash, or is this some way, or maybe you were looking at this as maybe a foot in the door, maybe even writing for the show? What was the motivation behind wanting to write these novels?
Well, Clay's a big fan of the Flash, so to him, when the editor from Titan, who's a good friend of ours, and he had pitched us before this a couple of ideas for a couple other shows and properties, and we kept saying no, it's not. We weren't familiar with it or comfortable with giving it the justice it deserved. But when he threw Flash on the table, I knew Clay was going to be a huge fan because he's a big comic book fan, and I was like, this is the one we're going to go with. And we were happy to take it. I love Flash from the cartoons, so it wasn't that big a thing for me either to play with.
Now, so you're a fan of the Flash comics, Clay, right?
Yeah.
Had you guys already? Were you already watching the Flash and Arrow before you got this opportunity, or?
Off and on. I certainly was not an every week viewer, but I was familiar with it. But I was a Flash as a character fan. Less so with Arrow. I didn't grow up reading Green Arrow. I knew him, when he came into Justice League or Brave and the Bold or that kind of thing. He was never one of my favorite superheroes. But Flash, man, when I was 7 years old, Flash was awesome.
And I started watching the Arrow show long before the books were a thing. And so when the Flash show came on, and of course Gorilla Grodd was being hinted at, I was like, Clay, you've got to, Gorilla Grodd's going to come in. And he was like, they're not going to do Gorilla Grodd. And it turned out that that he actually became a major character.
He did. You're right. Yeah. And they did it quite well, I think, too. Actually, he's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, it helps that you can do CGI thing. If it was going to be like a guy in a monkey suit, it would have been not going to work.
So was it pretty, particularly, I mean, Clay, if you were a fan of the Flash for so long in the comics, I mean, was that must have been fun, right? And pretty amazing to get to actually write the Flash? Yeah,
it was really cool. And we got to use a wide range of the villains from the show. Although, out of the stories we pitched, I had a Grodd story that I wanted to do, which was great, by the way. But they elected not to do that one because Grodd had gone to Earth 2, and it would just be too complicated to. They didn't want us to have any secrets, I guess. So he does still appear briefly because he wasn't not going to be in a Flash book I was writing. But just being able to write him doing his stuff and vibrating through things, and the show's not nearly as crazy silly as the old comic books were.
Yeah.
Not much was. DC in the 60s, man, that stuff's on acid. It's hard to imagine because most of those guys who were working in comics in those days are these old 60-year-old dudes who came into comics around World War II. Yep. And for these guys to be sitting around the office in New York coming up with these ideas that are so childish and brilliant, I would have loved to have been in the room with some of these old guys, but Flash particularly just had the strangest storylines of any of those books.
They were weird.
The show, fortunately, doesn't do that.
Oh, yeah. So let's see here. Oh, so in the chat, Licious Mate just says, I love Gorilla Grodd. I think he's very underrated as a character. It's always good to see when they have shows around him. I'm looking forward to his appearance in Legends of Tomorrow. That is correct. He is going to be on Legends of Tomorrow this season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me neither. Okay, there's a reason for us to watch it.
There you go.
Oh, well, that leads me to my question. Why have you skipped on Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl as shows to watch?
Actually, it's more time than anything. For us, we've got to be kind of picky and choosy on those kind of things. I do watch a little bit of Legends of Tomorrow because I like the concept of it. They don't always deliver what I want from it. And I wound up liking, I went in thinking I was going to be liking the Atom, and I was going to be liking, what was the other one? Firestorm and a couple other, and I wound up completely switching and actually liking my God, I'm blanking. Some other characters, which I'm trying to think of. The two villain guys.
Heatwave, Captain Cold.
Captain Cold. Yeah, I wound up loving that, and I hated them on the Flash, and I love them on the Legends of Tomorrow. But then, they kind of disappeared, and now you only got one, and I'm like, they don't give them enough airtime, and so. But most of the stories are just a little bit over the top for me. I like, I'm all looking forward to the Barnum one. I haven't watched it yet.
But, I won't.
I was just, we're going to talk about that later today.
Yeah, I like the ideas of going back in time and placing these heroes in these situations, but it's just too much time for us to have to do other things, and I just can't share. To get both Supergirl 4 shows is just too much.
A lot. No, it is a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. In the chat, Carrie Johnson says, "End hashtag Legends of Tomorrow persecution now." So,
yeah,
that's probably mostly at me because I rag on that show every single week on this. Because out of the 3, it's the one I have a big problem with. Some of the over the top stuff is what my issue is as well, Susan, that you mentioned. I will say I have a couple good things to say about it this week, folks.
Oh, good.
And I have plenty of bad stuff to say about it too.
All right. Well, that's fine.
All right, we'll get to that later on. Again, if you have any questions for Clay and Susan, please put them in the chat, folks. Here, so let's move on to. By the way, both the Flash and the Arrow novels are out. I got mine at Barnes & Noble, but you can write Barnes & Noble, Amazon, I don't know, pretty much anywhere, right? People can get them?
Yes. Yeah. Fairly
Yep.
certain.
They can get them online and wherever.
Awesome. Not be Dalton Bookstores, unfortunately, because they're out of business. But I wish they were still around.
That's right. They are.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah. Well, Walden books, too. You know what? I remember I always was considered Walden books.
Yeah.
Walden, yeah.
Anyway, let's go to your other novels, though. Vampire Empire, Crown and Key, 2 different series. You want to tell people a little bit about those? You want to maybe start with Vampire Empire? When do you want to tell people what that's about?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. Vampire Empire is historical fantasy. Steampunk, I guess, would be one way to characterize it. Basic premise is, in the year 1870, vampires rise up and destroy the industrial world of the Northern Hemisphere. And the humans who survive flee to the equator. In our world, vampires are not undead. They are a parasitic species that co-evolved with Homo sapiens. They don't crumble in the sun, but they don't do well in the heat, so they don't live around the tropics. Makes sense? So now it's 150 years later. The vampire clans still control the Northern Hemisphere where they keep human herds. And the humans have created these new neo-Victorian steampunk societies around the equator. And we're getting ready to have a war between the two societies. We've got, it's a pretty cool book, actually. It's sort of a Scarlet Pimpernel meets Dracula.
Oh.
Nice. Nice.
Cool. And Susan, you want to tell them about Crown and Key? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just want to say there's a strong female character because there's an empress or woman about to become an empress in the human society, and she's going to lead the war. And so, it's more like having a very just all the elements of having a female at the head of a society and who are kind of stuck in the past. So it's kind of cool to have her being not the damsel in distress so much, but just being more of a kick-ass kind of empress. So, and I like strong female characters. And Crown and Key is an alternate history as well. We do a lot of alternate history fantasy stuff, and this is a books by Del Rey, and it's a Victorian magic. It's basically we like to call it Charlotte Bronte's Avengers. So it's a magician, it's a engineer, it's a werewolf hunter, it's an alchemist, all working together to defeat a rising evil growing in Victorian London or pre-Victorian London.
Sweet. Awesome. Again, guys, all those are available, bookstores, Amazon. But you can also go to their website and get more information about them, clayandsusangriffith.com. Francis, other questions you have for them?
Yeah, so it looks like, for both sets of novels here, you're working with vampires and werewolves. Have you ever thought of maybe even incorporating that kind of mythology into, if you decide to write, or if you can write more Flash and Arrow novels, would you think of adding them in there, since you seem so well versed in those characters or in the characters?
That'd be cool, actually. I think in some ways Arrow would work really well for a horror themed story. Now, Flash, to me, what I was going to say earlier in some ways about Grodd, and it's not that I always bring the conversation back to Grodd.
Yes, you do. Always.
To me, Grodd worked much better earlier when season 1 and even season 2, when he was more of a monster, a brilliant monster, versus the Gorilla City take of season 3. So you can do monster. Obviously, they've had King Shark. He's kind of a monster character too. But I think Arrow would work really well with a gothic. I mean, it's kind of a modern gothic anyway, but you could certainly do monsters. With a silver arrow hunting a werewolf, that'd be awesome.
That would be really cool.
That would be really cool. I didn't think of
especially
that.
doing like a Halloween special, just doing something a little noirish a little bit for those shows that they could certainly, if they've done the musical episode, anything's game now. I mean, I think we should be able to play with a lot of these different scenarios. So I would love doing a supernatural aspect to either of those shows.
So if the producers are watching, call us and we'll write them.
Sweet. In the chat, Lister's mate says, you always have to bring things back to Grodd. So he likes that, yep.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all.
How about this? Do you have, I think Bookish Spider might be in the chat, but I'm sure there's some aspiring writers out there. Do you have any tips for them?
Oh, that's a big question.
We froze.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's never give up. I mean, no matter what you're doing, people will have a lot of criticism. People will always be, telling you, whether the stuff's good or bad. Don't worry, just get it out, right? And never worry about your rejection letters, because we've got a slew of them. We've got boxes of rejection letters. It doesn't make a difference as long as it's about having the planets align, because you may just have a bad day with your manuscript getting to an editor who's just had a miserable day, or just is basically just going to overlook something just because of something minor that happened to them. It doesn't necessarily always stand out to be against you. So just keep trying. I mean, and don't listen to a lot of the criticism that or the self-doubt that comes around. Just never stop.
Awesome advice.
I would also say don't, although this isn't as true as it used to be, but don't chase the market. Write what you want to write. Don't think, oh, wow, zombies are hot now, let me write a zombie novel. Vampires are hot, let me write a vampire novel. Vampires came and went 4 times while we were working on Vampire Empire. So the only caveat to that now is, with self-publishing being such a big part of writers' market, and as long as you do it correctly, you can get from keyboard to market pretty quickly now, unlike the old days. Yep. In some ways, you can hit a hot spot quicker than you could in the old days. But I guess the basic point is, don't write something you don't want to write just because you think it's hot, because it's going to read like crap.
You got to write what you love.
What you love.
Yeah.
Yes. Write what you know.
I totally agree with that. All right, Francis, you have any last questions?
No, even though I was going to talk about the Tick, because I see that you guys wrote about.
Go for it. No, go for it. Because yes, folks, they've also written comics like the Tick, the Tick and Simpsons.
Yeah. So you went from you did comic books first before you started writing novels.
Correct.
So please.
How did that work? When I was in graduate school, getting my master's degree in African history, I decided I wanted to write comic books for a living. Now, I did finish my master's degree in African history, but I decided that my life goal was to write comic books. So I started submitting to Marvel and DC and everything. And I saw an ad in the back of an early Tick comic that said New England Comics, the publisher, was looking for ideas. So I sent them one of my characters, and they called me several years later and said, we don't want to do your character, but would you like to write our stuff? They were going to do some spin-offs of the Tick, like Paul the Samurai and the Man-Eating Cow. So
Which, by the way, are the best things he's ever written. That Man-Eating Cow series has killed me even today. It's fantastic. Go find it.
So I did that, and then Ben Edlund went off, who invented the Tick, by the way, went off to do the cartoon for Fox and then the live-action show. And so I got to write some of the Tick. And then we did a couple of other things after that, like The Simpsons and some small press stuff. But, yeah, the Tick is really like our one thing that people know.
In the chat, Lister's Mate says, "Oh, cool! Are your guests involved in the new version of the Tick on Amazon Prime?"
I wish, but no.
Ben's not returning our phone calls.
By the way, earlier what you were talking about with kind of a Arrow have a supernatural type vibe crossover. Carrie Johnson had said, "I figured that's what an Arrow / Supernatural the show crossover would be, a monster aspect."
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah. That would be a perfect idea.
They're in the same universe.
Yeah.
Well, they're both on CW, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Cool. All right. I have one last question for you guys. Is there any property outside of the DC TV shows that you would love to get a crack at writing for?
Ooh.
Now, it doesn't have to be comics. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Anything like if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, you get to write for this."
should have prepped them for this question.
I know it's tough, right? Come on, I want the off the cuff answers.
Yeah, my first answer always to that is Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Wow, I would not predict that.
We did some Kolchak stuff for a company called Moonstone.
Oh, cool.
But
That's right.
I would write a Kolchak novel in a heartbeat.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah. Nice. And I'm a big pulp fan. I grew up reading the pulps. And actually, I used to live next door in my hometown in upstate New York. I used to live next door to Walter Gibson, who wrote The Shadow.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a big fan. He used to give me like books at the post office and was like, here, go ahead, read this book. And it was always one of his books. And so I grew up reading some of that stuff. So Clay's got to work on some of his pulp heroes. And I'd like to work on The Shadow if that would ever come up. And other than that, probably Star Wars. I probably still would want to write for that property, even though I think that it's very different these days. But I still would love to play in that world.
Sweet, great choices. And I'm a big fan of The Shadow. That's awesome. That's really cool that you live next to him. That's awesome. All right, cool. So before we move on to start,
I wish I knew that.
Yeah. Before we move on to start talking about the actual shows this past week. So once again, it's clayandsusangriffith.com. There's a website. You can find all about their books. And then you said on Twitter, it's Clay and Susan, right? With "and" spelled out.
Right.
Correct.
That's
awesome. Cool. Check them out, folks. Follow them on Twitter. Check out their site. Read their books. All right, great. So thank you guys very much. Now, they're actually going to stay since they watch Arrow and Flash. They're actually going to stick around.
Yeah, you're right.
But they're up on all the current ones, so they're going to actually stay around and chat with the current episodes with us.
Yes.
And so that's cool. And then for Legends of Supergirl, we're going to have Cammie Ray, who was on our special episode last month, come in to join us to talk that. All right. So before we do that, though, folks, let me just show you here our upcoming shows. Next week, we have David Nickel, who plays Anatoly on Arrow, as our guest. And then November 5th, we have Amy Gumanek, who plays Cupid on Arrow. So definitely stick around and check for those out. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk to them. All right, so we're going to start here with Arrow, right, Francis?
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. All right. Color me mildly surprised. All right, so Arrow, episode number 2 of this season, called Tribute, directed by Laura Belsey and written by Adam Schwartz. We see the aftermath of Ollie being ousted as the Green Arrow. It is a dark night for him as he deals with reporters constantly asking him, is this true? And we get the best name drop, I think, in all of the DCCW universe so far, with the names of Bruce Wayne.
Forgot about that.
Easily Photoshop Bruce Wayne's face on the Arrow's body.
Seriously, that was awesome. Okay, wait, before you continue, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Isn't that the first reference to Batman in any of these Arrowverse shows?
Oh, no? There is a reference in Supergirl where Wynn asks about Kara's, Superman's brooding friend over in Gotham. So,
all right.
Well, yeah, it's a very slight reference. This is the first name check they've done so far on Arrow.
There have been references to Wayne Industries, I thought.
You're right.
I think first season, Queen Consolidated was supposed to have a thing with Wayne Industries. So yeah, there is again the side references. I think is the first direct name drop for Bruce Wayne. So that was really cool. I thought that was a lot of fun. During this time, of course, we see that Ollie is showing off what's called, I guess, the Markovian.
Delegation.
It's a delegation, but I wanted to call it the Accords based off of like the Avengers called the Accords. So what's the Markovian Accord? No, it's just it's a Markovian delegation. But apparently, Ollie just can't seem to get any leeway with this whole Arrow thing, and he's continuously being hounded until all of a sudden people are running around. It's like everyone's rushing around there as they are attacked by a bunch of men who we don't know where they're from until all of a sudden you see Anatoly make his triumphant return. And he is there for one reason and one reason only, to make his way back into the Bratva, as he has been so, I guess, belittled amongst within the organization. But yeah, a lot happened here. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes on in this particular episode, but we do see that William, another side story with William, who is having a lot of trouble at school, getting beaten up for the fact that his father has been ousted as the Green Arrow, and instead of providing any type of support, he just tells them to punch him in the nose.
You know that's what Green Arrow is going to tell him to do.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So his fatherly advice is punch him before they punch you. And while William is in desperate need of fatherly advice, Ollie gets the call that more things are happening, so he has to leave William alone with his video games, which we often see him playing. The Arrow team are in search of Anatoly, and during this search we find out that Curtis has been moonlighting as a programmer. And I don't know a lot about programming, but I mean, it's a little weird listening to them talk about programming languages.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great.
I was just like, it's okay. It was perfectly fine. But they do end up finding out where the Markovians have been captured. They are rescued, but one is missing. And we find out that Anatoly has this main Markovian. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter because, yeah, that was real, just there to kind of say, hey, for pretty much Anatoly to say, hey, Oliver, I'm back. We are not friends, but I'm here to kind of regain my stature in the Bratva.
And also, give me what? Give me $20 million. What was it?
And give me $20 million for the money that you're going to use to rebuild the police department. Oh, and by the way, I wasn't the one who sent out the picture. Just letting you know, I have honor. So we find out, that what Ollie originally thought was all Anatoly's business was not really him. And that's more. And at the very end of the show, last scene, after all is said and done, Ollie says, "Look, I need to be a father to William. I need to be the mayor. I cannot be the Green Arrow anymore. Diggle, I'm going to give the mantle to you because you can't shoot a gun anyway. So here's an arrow. Let's see if you can do it."
Right. Of course, Oliver doesn't know that what happened to John. Because we learned he got injured in the explosion on Lin Yu. And by the way, if you didn't mention, they did prove the photo was a fake, so Oliver was kind of out of the woods for the how many other times he's been outed as the Arrow. And Felicity and Curtis are forming a new kind of tech or consulting company or something. Which is all right. In the chat, by the way, thank you for that summary. In the chat, Carrie says, after that name drop about Bruce Wayne, Bruce was like, "What the fuck, Ollie?" And he also says, "I do love full-on nefarious Anatoly." So he's digging the kind of Anatoly being, the against Ollie. Lister's Mate says it was kind of weird. There were 2 DC shows that dealt with kids punching other kids this week. What was the other one? Was there? It was
Supergirl. Supergirl was the other one.
Oh yeah. The daughter of the
daughter gets punched.
Reigns.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Or punches a girl.
Good memory, Lister's Mate. All right, Francis. What are we starting with on Arrow? What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, really, the biggest thing to talk about is the larger DC universe. Will we see Batman? Is this now a way? Is this now a foot in the door to see Batman now in the Arrow universe?
No way.
You don't think so?
No, dude. You have no idea how much I would love it and how much I got excited when they said that. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean, Sir Fox has Gotham, right? And I don't think there's any way the CW is going to be able to use Batman.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it happening.
I guess I'm just hopeful.
I mean, do you guys think there's any chance of that, Clay and Susan?
No. I think the legalities would be so difficult to bring Batman in. I'm surprised they use Superman and Supergirl, frankly. But if they did that, maybe Batman will show up. By God.
Well, that's it. That's what I was thinking. It's like they've already done that with Superman, and who would have thought that was even possible on Supergirl? Yeah. So to me, it's like there's always a possibility. It would be interesting, but I don't want that to overshadow, the show, because I think once Batman comes in, he could tend to just suck the very life out of the rest of that show. And I want Green Arrow to sort of have still this chutzpah and stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I would be interested in it, but I'm still kind of wary.
So in the chat, tell us if you would love to see Batman in Arrow. You know where they actually could get away with it, probably, is in this upcoming 4-part crossover with like multiverse type stuff. If they're gonna see like, if they're gonna try to throw Batman in even like as a little almost like throwaway, that's where they might be able to work it in.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be the better way of doing it too, because this way they can pretty much do anything and then have a reset basically if they need to.
I would do it in a musical.
Of course, we need more musical episodes.
Yeah, dude, that was my favorite thing last year, man. The Flash Supergirl musical.
Yeah,
I loved that. Sure. I loved it.
Batman, by the way, on an episode of Justice League, I think it was Unlimited, not the original one. Batman does sing in an episode.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was Diedrich Bader doing that, so not too surprised. So it looks like...
No, that was Kevin Conroy was doing the voice.
Oh, was it really? I thought... Oh, you're right. I'm thinking of Brave and the Bold. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thinking of something else.
Oh, sorry. Yes, next topic.
So yeah, let's talk about Dinah and Diggle. We don't really see Lila much anymore in the hanging around the Arrow people. Are they hinting at a potential romantic interlude between Dinah and Diggle? I mean, they do have a lot of things together.
I hope not.
They are very intimate in at least kind of like how they interact with each other. I don't know. I see a lot of hand on the chest business going on.
I like that. I like the intimacy and sort of the physicality they have together, but it would ruin John's character for me if he has an affair.
Yes.
I mean, I respect what they've done with his character, and he's always sort of been that moral core. And I'm sure they're sitting around the writer's room thinking, oh, this would be fantastic to push him this far. But don't do it. If you're listening, don't do it. It would ruin his character.
No, that's true. I could definitely see that. Yeah, he does have a very high moral compass. So for him to do that would...
he does. Also, I've not gotten any romantic vibe. I've just gotten the vibe that she's pissed at him, basically, these first 2 episodes.
I actually felt like there's kind of, a little bit of, there's that little bit of animosity towards each other, but at the same time, it feels like, I don't want to say it's sexual tension or anything, but there's some type of tension. It could be a romantic tension. I don't know. But.
In the chat, Kerry Johnson says, Dinah and Diggle are dynamic, but not romantic. I like that. And he says, Lila and his kid mean too much to him. I agree with that. Yeah. I can also add you a little behind the scenes because I've reached out to I'm forgetting the actress's name. Aubrey. Anyway, tell me if you remember the name who plays Lila.
Who plays Lila?
Yeah. Anyway, I know actually that she's in because I talked to her manager. She's in Africa shooting a project, so that may be a big reason why she's not on the show right now.
So
it may have nothing to do with probably having anything. They're trying to split them up.
Okay.
Yeah, but to me, both on Arrow and on Flash, you got Joe as being the core and John as being the core of their moral compasses. So to have one of those cores go veer off course, I think would be just a little bit too dangerous and ruin some of the aspects that we love so much about them.
Yeah, especially since the other characters are doing enough of that already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I still don't like William. I'm not a fan of the son.
What don't you like about him?
I don't know. It feels, I don't know. I always feel like they use children in television shows as kind of an easy, I don't know, almost like it almost feels like a crutch for the show because you have to slow it down. You have to, I don't know. He's too much of a central focus, I think, for me, in the sense of now we have to get, I don't know, you have those scenes where you have to give the fatherly advice to the son, and it's weird, and he looks too old to be acting the way he does, and I don't know, it's all strange to me.
What do you guys, Clay and Susan, what do you guys think about William?
I really like the idea of Oliver being a father. I mean, I think that's a nice organic move for the show, and they're in their 6th year, so they can do that. The interplay so far between the two hasn't really grabbed me. Yeah. I think that they might be playing the fact that Oliver just doesn't know how to do this role. I mean, you have to remember his only example of fatherly advice is, his dad shooting his brains out and falling off a raft. So it's not like, he's not going to do that. So he's got nothing else.
We hope. But yeah, I mean, I think the same thing. I mean, I like the opportunities that it could bring, but right now they're doing too much. Like they have like 2 or 3 Williams moments this particular episode, which I guess it's more centrally focused, and to set up what was going to happen at the end. But I kind of wish that there would be a little bit less. But I did like the whole bit with him trying to learn how to play a video game that he had absolutely no idea. I wish the kid had known a little bit more, and Oliver just being, I don't know what to do with this thing. I mean, I like those little moments because it takes Oliver or the Green Hour completely out of his element, and which is kind of interesting to me. But it doesn't need to be like 4 or 5 times an episode. It just needs to be like 1 or 2 and I'd be done.
In the chat, Kerry Johnson, thank you, Cherry. He says Lila actress is Audrey Anderson is her name, and she was also on The Walking Dead. Thank you very much. And Lister's Mate says, yeah, I agree with Francis. The kid looks too much like a 16-year-old playing a 13/14-year-old.
And William is supposed to be 10 too.
So I don't think he looks that old. I'm actually okay with it. I don't know. I think the way William is reacting to things makes sense based on what he's gone through. Like, I don't have a problem believing that that's where he is right now in his life, and he has a big problem accepting Oliver. And I also like that Oliver, I mean, he's trying his best, and I actually think he's being very kind, and he's trying to William. I mean, and obviously the Green Arrow thing is getting in the way, but that's why he makes that big decision at the end of this episode. So I'm okay. I'm okay with what they're doing with that. I mean, I think you're right. It could have been very bad, but I'm okay. See where it goes.
My only other thing about William is he's an easy target. I mean, look at Anatoly. He already threatened, like, hey, you want to see William live? Well, give me the money I want. Like, he's an easy...
Well, no, when Anatoly deliberately said, I didn't go after your son because I am a man of honor. Yeah. But you're saying other people could, Yeah,
and it's just... Yeah, I think it's a little bit of an easy target, but I get it. I mean, it will help develop Oliver as a character as well. So, I mean, that works, especially since the first season first half of his life he was like party kid, and now he's like he has to be mature, has to take on responsibility. So I get it. This is the first episode. I think I may be wrong, but is this the first episode no flashbacks?
You might be right.
Yeah.
You might be right. There was no flashbacks whatsoever, were there?
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
No which is why I think I enjoyed it so much more. Nothing to...
I don't think so.
Yeah, we don't have to retread anything. We don't need... And there's no mystery. It's just a straight, here is the story. And I
That's
think
what they need to be doing.
Not even when he meets up with Anatoly again. No Russian flashbacks. It's just... Let's move forward with the story. And I really like that, so... I think we're good to grade it. If anyone else has anything else to say about this episode,
I just want to add. Maybe you don't. First off, if you watch the show, folks, for Felicity, like she started back in seasons 1 and 2, my favorite character. I think they ruined her around seasons 3 and 4. But now this season, I think she's back to like how I want Felicity to be, and I'm really digging what they're doing. She's getting back into she's super smart. She's pretty much like one of the best computer hacker people on the planet. And they're emphasizing that should be her role on the team. And I love her and Curtis. I think totally makes sense in terms of them vibing together. They're on the same wavelength. They do the same kind of thing. That her and him like working together, like her suggestion at the end, I think that's really cool. I think they can have a lot of fun with that. So I'm digging where they're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the two of them in the down in the lair a little bit more. Yeah, because I think she has to operate alone a lot. Even when Mr. Terrific's out on the field, it's her alone in there, and it's hard for her to like interact with anything because she's basically got her computers or she's just over the headsets. So to have Mr. Terrific in there, I thought that was a kind of a nice dynamic. They got to play off each other. It was have a conversation and a little bit of interplay, and I kind of enjoyed that a little bit. And I love Felicity getting back into her geeky, like you said, computer geek aspect.
Yes, yeah.
In the chat, by the way, Kerry Johnson says, I'm glad the show addressed the money situation on the show because how much, that's Francis, you brought this up last week, how much does mayor and assistant mayor pay and Diggle has no job?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that was, I actually have that, the funny thing is I had that in my notes and I missed it, but I really do love that they actually had an actual discussion on how they.
They must have watched the show last week and heard you, Francis.
Apparently, yes. Thank you, writers, for making me happy.
Listener's Mate says about William, my oldest nephew thinks they are setting William up to have mental problems to develop him as a superhero or villain.
I can see them doing a villain. I don't think he has mental problems, but I think he is just, upset.
Emotional problems.
Emotional, yeah.
So maybe you think Arrow's gonna have to fight him, maybe, or something, or Oliver, yeah.
Maybe a future with him.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do some time travel, future, or whatever version of him.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to go on to rating now the episode?
I think so.
All right. So what we do, Susan and Clay, and if you're new to our show watching, we rate each episode on a 4-scale system, but we don't do stars. We do a different thing for each thing. So for Arrow, we give it a maximum of 4 boxing glove arrows. And you can do halves or whatever, quarters, whatever you want, or 3/4. I'm going to give it. Go Susan. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say one thing about the show, and Clay had brought this up after we had discussed it, about the fact that Arrow, or Ollie, was giving up the arrow because of his son.
Yeah.
And yet he didn't even think about John has a son or a daughter, or whichever way you want to look at it these days. And it's just you didn't even think about poor John and his family, that you're just worried about his own family. And I felt that kind of really did bother me. The more I thought about it after Clay brought it up, I'm like, boy, Ollie's just being incredibly selfish for somebody who he knows that the man he's a family man, and John has been a family man from the get-go.
It did when it first happened, but then they inserted some dialogue that I felt was them addressing that, and it's when Oliver said, "She's already lost her mother. I can't leave him with no parents." And I think what he was trying to say is, if something happens to you, Lila's still there. And I think what he was trying to say is my kid's gonna have nobody whatsoever.
Okay.
If he is in a coma, he doesn't even have his aunt. She's in a coma.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's
how I think they tried to address it.
This is true.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
It's still tough. It's still tough, but I mean, yes, I think that's what he was going with. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do some ratings.
All right.
Clay, what do you give this episode?
I thought it was a pretty solid episode. I would actually give it 3 boxing glove arrows.
All right. Yeah. Susan, good. Susan, what do you give it?
I'm going to go a little bit higher than I'm going to go about 3.5. I like some of the emotional bits. I like some of the little interactions between all the different characters. So it wasn't a complete 4, but it was just shy.
Sweet.
3.5.
Francis, what do you give it?
I agree, 3.5 for sure. There was a lot going on. They answered my question about the money thing. That was
that gets half right there.
That was a big enough deal for me. So I really enjoyed it. Arrow has been solid these first 2 episodes, so I'm really glad it's going well.
Yep.
So
I agree. By the way, folks, please feel free to put your own ratings in the chat. I agree. Great start to season 6 of Arrow. I give it a solid 3 boxing glove arrows. Another good episode. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So across the board there, we all liked the episode quite a bit.
Yes.
All right. So later in the show, Supergirl and Legends we will talk about. But right now, we are going to talk about The Flash. All right. This is second episode of season 4. It's called Mixed Signals. It was written by Jonathan Butler and Gabriel Garza, directed by Alexandra LaRoche. Okay. So this episode opens with Grant Gustin doing his best impersonation of Tom Cruise in Risky Business. Fortunately, he does not open up a brothel for superheroes after that happens. But he's excited. Barry's excited. He is back out of the Speed Force. He's not, all nuts anymore, or whatever's happening to him. He's back to himself. He's so excited. He's taking care of all of the wedding business and plans. And Iris, she says, "Oh, it's great. You don't have to do anything. And here's breakfast," or whatever he was doing for her. Iris doesn't think that's so great because he's not consulting her about anything. And he also goes to save the day on his own and doesn't listen to her either and their things. So anyway, so to solve this problem, Caitlin suggests to Iris maybe some couples counseling would be good because she did that with Ronnie. Iris thinks that's kind of, they don't need that at first, but then she realizes, hey, not a bad idea. Barry, let's go to couples counseling. Great idea, right, Barry? And guess what? We have an appointment in 30 minutes. Fortunately, there is a counselor. Her only job is to be on call to deal with Barry and Iris's counseling issues. So they go see the counselor. There's actually, personally, I think, some very humorous moments, particularly with Grant Gustin's acting in these scenes. And anyway, he gets whisked away because there's a call about, because the main problem with this episode, or not the problem they have to deal with in the episode is there's a metahuman, Kilgore, that's what he goes by. He can control technology. And he and these other three dudes did something. Does anybody remember? I don't know what the technology they did. It was
they took his virus and they sold it under his feet. You know, it was the guy that was Kilgore.
He was the main guy who developed it, right? And they stole it from him.
And they sold it from him, and they made money off of it.
So he got this abilities though. So he's getting revenge on these three people, and he's killing them, or he's trying to kill them. And so that's what the Flash is trying to stop. And that's why he gets pulled out of the counseling to try to have to deal with him. While that's going on, there's other romantic problems with Cisco and Gypsy. Gypsy comes in to have a date with Cisco, and I'm not sure when this was established, but I guess this episode establishes that they're a couple. They're dating.
Yes.
So that's nice. But unfortunately, because of this metahuman problem, Kilgore, Cisco has to try to deal with that and come up with technological things, like he does. And so he says, Gypsy, you got to wait. I can't go on the date right now. And then eventually he says, oh, I'm sorry, I have to postpone it. And she says, that's cool. And he's like, wow, my girlfriend's so great. And Caitlin says, oh, you're such an idiot. You don't know anything about women. She's not cool with it at all. And he learns that on her Earth, Gypsy's Earth, there's a thing called 111 Day, which I guess is kind of their version, a bit of Valentine's Day in a way. So anyway, that was really important. And she keeps using the word schmoopy. So anyway, whatever. But they work it out in the end. He apologizes, and they have a nice romantic dinner. And then let's see here. So Barry, that's right. Barry's got a new suit by Cisco, which is all these good techno gadgets. But that's not good when your villain you're fighting can control technology. Not good at all. So the villain basically can control Barry because the suit is filled with tech. And Wally goes there too, but for some reason this season Wally is totally incompetent and he just gets his ass kicked every time he appears on screen. So Wally's knocked out. Barry's keeping control of his suit, and but so Iris has the idea, well, shoot a lightning bolt at your chest, short out the suit, then you'll be able to fight Kilgore. Cisco and Caitlin are like, wait, that might kill him. Iris says, just trust me. I know it'll work. You have to have faith and listen to me, Barry. So he does it, shorts out the suit, defeats Kilgore. It's all good. Oh, and in the counseling session, they finally found out. Iris finally blurts out. She was pissed off because Barry left her in the suite for so long, and she's mad that he left her alone and didn't ask her about it. And so then they finally got to have a bit of a conversation about that and know what's making her mad. All right, I think that covers pretty much everything that happened in the episode. Okay. So, by the way, I'm joking about Wally because I think Wally's actually really cool and he's developed well over the seasons. I don't know. I feel they're going weird with him, making him like just get his ass kicked all the time. I would like to see Wally have more things to do and kick butt. That's why I'm a little bit of a joke about that. Anyway, I don't know. What do you guys feel about Wally there? He's got a cool new haircut. I'll say that this season.
He has Barry Allen hair.
He does have Barry Allen hair.
That weirds me out. That's the first thing about Wally. It's like, oh, he's adopting a new look.
All right, well, hey, let's talk about. I don't know what you think about. Let's talk about Barry and Iris and the whole counseling thing. What do you guys think about those scenes, Susan?
I thought they were entertaining. I don't know if they could last going on for a number of episodes, like some folks want. I mean, I think there's potential there. I think it can get old fast, but I'm hoping that they keep it light and they keep it, not getting into too deep on it. But it was all right. It didn't bother me too much. I enjoyed the two bits that they showed.
Clay, what'd you think?
I liked it okay. I mean, I thought it was a little slapsticky, but I think the jokey quality of it actually worked because when she finally said what her problem was, I thought it had a real impact. That she was pissed that he left and didn't consult her, that they weren't part of a team.
Right.
And I thought they did a pretty good job with that. I don't know that they could continue this on the show ad infinitum. It might be an interesting little, web show they could do with just Barry and Iris counseling.
That'd be fun.
In a little mini-series, yeah. Mini-series, yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming this was just probably a one-time thing in terms of showing on the episode. I actually do like I like that they made it kind of a joke, like Grant Gustin, like he was doing all those, like he was kind of distracted. And he'd be like, "Ooh, what?" I think Grant Gustin's just he's great in that role. So I appreciate all the when he brings in like little comedic things like that.
He is good at light comedy. He's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's what, like you said, that's what makes those bits work. I mean, and I enjoy them when they do happen, just because the delivery of them I know is going to pan out. I know there's always going to be, a payoff to those things. So.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Francis has no comment about that. Okay,
so not really. Not really.
That's fine.
They're there.
All right. Well, what did you think about I guess the main thrust of the story with the whole Kilgore thing, and that's in the storyline?
It was okay. That was based on a character that came along in the 80s, I believe, back when I think it was Mike Barron was writing the book. And Kilgore in the comic was more like a techno creature. He was like a biotech thing. Sort of, I don't know if you ever read the New Mutants comic. They had that character, I think his name was Warlock, who was sort of a biotechnical thing. Well, that's what I remember Kilgore being. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. But this time he was just sort of a tech nerd who somehow, mysteriously, we don't know how, acquired these meta powers. But it was okay. I mean, I wish they sometimes would do more with the villains, and sometimes they do, but sometimes the villains are just there to kind of fill a quarter of the show, while the majority of it is our main characters. But sometimes I want a little bit more out of them.
I know the Flash villains don't seem to be as important to the stories as the characters themselves. So that they don't spend a lot of time developing these characters, that they're more just a vehicle for the rest of the characters to play off of, is okay with me. I don't have I don't expect there to be, except maybe on an occasion like there's Zoom or somebody else coming into being that. But some of these smaller villains of the week kind of things, they can be a little bit less of an importance. And he didn't, he wasn't bad or good to me in any shape or way. He just didn't register as a vehicle. That the whole bit with the elevator, that was entertaining, and to watch Cisco's reaction, that was all entertaining, and that's the stuff that I really need.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up. I did love Cisco's entry onto the crime scene and stuff, and then his reaction. That was great.
Yes.
Cisco's unlike last season where Cisco was all depressed the first part of the season.
Yeah.
It's so nice to just have super fun, awesome, geeky Cisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the show back.
Yeah, they're definitely keeping to their promise of making it much lighter show with a lot more humorous moments. And I think even though the villain was, just propels the overall plot forward.
Right.
It had enough. I think he had enough menace to make it to kind of off balance the humor. I think he was menacing enough as a villain to be an actual threat, especially since Barry's suit was all
right
out. I mean, it made a lot of sense, and I like that was the precursor, or Cisco creating the suit was a precursor to that. So I really like that.
In the chat, Lister's May says, interesting fact, the woman who played the counselor on The Flash played John Travolta's love interest in Saturday Night Fever. That is interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
She did. I can't remember her name. Yeah, she was big back in the 70s.
Nice.
Fun fact.
And then Lister's May also says, which will lead into the next topic here, I didn't understand the 111 day thing. So that's the Gypsy Cisco thing. So I don't know. What did she say? Something about it's like one soul to one plus one other soul. Say it again.
One soul plus one soul equals one soul.
Gotcha.
That's what it.
I wanted Cisco to say wait, does 1 + 1 not equal 2 on your Earth?
They don't have Santa on her Earth.
Right.
She made fun of the Christmas thing for Cisco, so they definitely have a different set of mythology over there.
So what do you guys think of the whole Cisco Gypsy romance? I like it. I think it's fun. It's nice. It's nice to see Cisco with someone.
Yeah.
Oh, I do too. It's nice to see him, finally get get a date that is going to, is meaningful to him and to Gypsy before all the other ones. He's always longing for somebody and always longing after the villainesses. It's nice to actually have him have a moment. So it's kind of, it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
he's adorable.
He's always been the mythical seventh wheel to everyone's relationship. So it's nice.
Seventh wheel.
It's nice to see that he has somebody now, so that's really good. I'm a fan.
And he chose well.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same powers, then everything. That really works out. No, and they it goes. Yeah, their dynamic is actually pretty good. I like their chemistry.
It is. What did you guys think about the whole thing with Iris saying, just throw a lightning bolt at you, just trust me? So did that work for you, what they were trying to do there, or did it make no sense because you have two of the most brilliant people on the planet, Caitlin and Cisco, telling her, hey, you might kill him?
Yeah.
Thank you. Jeff, you're on it 100% on it.
I mean, it doesn't really, yes, that's my main issue. I think what they're obviously going for is
trust
Iris. Iris is saying, you need to trust me, Barry. Trust me here. That's a big leap in what you want him to trust her for, though. What did you guys think, Clay? Or he might be frozen. Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think I'm back. I understand what they were doing. I mean, when you're writing the plot, you get to the point, okay, we're trying, the whole point of this show is Barry and Iris need to be a unit by the end of the show, so we'll do the Cisco Gypsy thing, and they'll have their unit element. So you know what they're doing, but my gosh, you need to come up with a better thing that makes them a unit. You need to just blue pencil that out instead of. It didn't. I mean, I know exactly what they wanted to do, and it did what they wanted, but it was just kind of silly.
If she had any kind of background that would make me believe that I could trust her to say, okay, nothing's going to happen to you because I'm going to let you, electrify yourself, basically. It just, it could have been anything else but that. If it had been an emotional, bit that she was going to try and get him to do, a logical, emotional connection, but to throw a lightning bolt at him, so it's no.
Right. The issue is Iris has no technical background, really. That's the problem.
If Clay told me to electrocute myself on that basis, I probably would not do it because he doesn't know. I love you, Clay, but you can't.
Well,
you're right. I'm probably gonna listen to Cisco.
I wouldn't trust you.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jeff, for pointing that out. I mean, yeah, she doesn't have an electrical engineering degree or anything. She's a reporter. I mean, that's kind of what she does. And she does pull a "We Are Groot" moment when she says, "We are the Flash." So I didn't like that either.
No.
Wasn't a fan of that, but I understand exactly.
No.
We understand,
Right.
We understand that they're trying to develop that this is the "quote unquote" ultimate couple, I guess, in the Flash universe. So I appreciate that. I just don't like how they're stepping it up, and this is my theory, that is not the real Barry.
What?
He doesn't act. He acts weird. He acts in a way that I don't believe that he's the real Barry Allen.
Wait. You think somebody else came out of the Speed Force that was not the Barry Allen we know?
Because we don't actually see him escape, do we? We just see him appear. If we actually saw him escape, I'd be like, okay, well, that's Barry Allen. Of course it is. I think it's something else.
What do you think it is?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea.
That's this is a bold prediction this early in the season.
Because he just acts so.
Really, I don't think so. I think last episode he was all messed up.
But that's part of it too. He had the writings on the wall. He was acting funny. He didn't, he didn't know who he was, or he was reliving things that he experienced, that maybe Barry experienced in the Speed Force. But I think it's not. I don't think it's him. I don't know. I just have this feeling I have the Iris gut feeling that it's not him.
Gotcha. So, Well, you know what? I do think it's him, but that's an interesting prediction. I want to see how that turns out now. We'll see. In the chat, by the way, Lister's mate says, my 17-year-old nephew heard you, Jeff, and said, who would trust Iris? Ouch. All right. Okay. All right. So I guess. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention at the end of this episode, folks, Kilgore gets put in the Iron Heights, I believe, right? The name of the prison.
Yes. The meta humans.
Yep. And then we kind of realize we get another shot of the Thinker, and the Thinker wanted him to be in Iron Heights, Kilgore, and maybe the Warden is somehow involved too. It seems perhaps like with this. So anyway, that's kind of like a little tease at the end. There we go, one more shot of the Thinker.
Yeah, and there's 8 more of his type because they showed the screen of 9.
Oh, that's right.
It was 9
or 10, yeah. Right?
Oh.
Yeah, like so he's assembling like super villains or something. It seems like.
Yeah, well, you never know. We'll see what happens.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the Thinker, though. Let's see what happens with him. Yeah. All right, let's do some ratings. I think Clay may be frozen possibly, but we'll get everybody else.
I think so.
Yeah. So we do this on a out of lightning bolts, so we can get a maximum of 4 lightning bolts. Okay. Susan, what would you give this episode?
Oh, it's between a 2.5 and a 3. I mean, probably a 3. I mean, because I liked aspects of it. I liked the comedic. I'm so happy to have it light again and having those little bits of interaction between the characters. I think they're all getting into their groove again. But the hokey stuff at the end with the lightning, adjusting the lightning bolt and the We Are Groot, I just can't give them a full 4.
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right. I will give it a 3 lightning bolts as well. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a solid episode. There were some fun moments. I thought last week's was not that great, so this was a nice, I think, step forward and back to kind of like how I want Flash to be like and back on their game, I think. So I enjoyed it.
I agree.
Francis, what do you give it?
It's definitely better than last one. The first episode I gave it 1.
Yeah, you hated that one.
Give it 1.
Wow.
Really didn't like that because there was just no. Again, I just to reemphasize, no consequence to Barry being gone. And then in this one, I do have this theory that it's not really him, but I'm giving it a 2. I mean, it was fun enough, but yeah, there's the Iris moments that are really bothering me, and there's little things about Barry where I'm just like, I'm not so sure about you, Barry. I'm not sure what you're trying to do here, but I think there's something up.
All right. Well, we will see.
And I guess we'll just have to get Clay's answer through your guys' Twitter account.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm sure he probably would not give it a full. I know he would never give it a full 4. So it's going to be either a 2 or a 3 on him.
All right. That I trust you. See, we may not trust Iris, but we'll trust you with that.
I appreciate that.
All right, so we thank you very much. So, please pass on our thanks to Clay, but thank you, Susan and Clay, for being here. Once again, it's ClayandSusanGriffith.com, right? That's your website? Yes. Yes. And Clay and Susan is their Twitter handle. You follow them, check out their books, Vampire Empire. Oh my God, Crown and Key. Just blank for a second. Crown and Key.
Yeah, they're
man-eating cow.
Yeah. Those books are highly rated on Goodreads. You're not going to be disappointed. Like, people love these books, so go ahead and check them out for sure.
Sweet. And of course, remember The Flash, The Haunting of Barry Allen is, and then Arrow, Generation of Vipers is the 2 ones they wrote for the DC TV shows.
Yeah, and let us know if you like them and reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have. So.
Awesome. Yes, thank you guys very much. We had a blast with you. You're welcome back anytime.
And we'll be happy to come back. So thank you so much for inviting us on, and we had a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care. Have a
great
rest of the show.
Yeah, sure. So, folks, we're going to have Cammie Ray from Arrow Squad join us here in just a minute to talk Legends of Supergirl. As we get ready for that, here, let me show you folks real quick we do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/supergeekedup. That's a way for you can pledge any amount you like per month. It can be as low as $1. And any amount is a super help to us. So please consider supporting our geeky stuff. And remember our geeky, here's the rest of our geeky shows. Tomorrow night, we're going to do our gaming show. We usually play Dungeons & Dragons. We'll be back to that next Monday. But tomorrow, we're going to do some MMORPG video gaming. We're going to do Blade and Soul, it's called. We're going to try that out for the first time. Yeah. And all right, so now, again, I'm going to have... Francis. Wow. I don't fully. Sorry about that. Like, what's your name again?
Sorry, Jeff. What are you doing now?
What are we doing? Francis is going to intro Legends for us, and then Cammie, Francis, and I will introduce Cammie in a second, and we're going to talk about it. Go ahead, Francis.
All right, Legends of Tomorrow. The episode is called Freakshow, directed by Kevin Trankarian. Trankarian. I don't know how to say it.
I know, it's so tough. Good job, though.
Yeah, and written by Keto Shimizu and Grain Godfrey. And I'm pretty. It's Irish. It's probably like Gren and not Grainy, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so the Legends, we find them after the pretty much the aftermath of what they've been doing. They now have access to the Wave Rider. They are fine in the Wave Rider. As a matter of fact, it starts off, even before them, it starts off with a flashback of Amaya and Nate kind of having their happy little relationship. It's a lovely little thing. As a matter of fact, Amaya is making Nate some chocolate donuts. Yum. As a matter of fact, when I watched that episode, I had myself a chocolate donut right after.
Did you really?
Yes, because that sounded really good.
Chocolate donuts are awesome.
Even though they pulled a reverse I'm going to go to the market to get something ordeal, where Nate goes to the market to get some donuts, and all of a sudden Maya disappears. But we don't know why just yet. But before she disappears, of course, sexy innuendo ensues. But Maya does leave because she does see Vixen on the television and decides she needs to figure out what's going on. All right, we now flash forward to the present. They are discussing pretty much how they are going to incorporate the stolen Bureau technology to their advantage, as the Legends decide that they will be the ones correcting these amalgamations. And Ray has created his own molecular hypercompressor, a.k.a. the Shrink Ray, which I totally get why he doesn't want to call it the Shrink Ray. I mean, you know, it's a little too on the nose, but I get it. They're discussing what they need to do next. They have an entire map of all the amalgamations rated from 1 to 10 based on severity, and they found one. Well, right before they found one, I love this little joke. They're looking through the different amalgamations, and Ray suggests, we should go to the Titanic. That'd be great. We can go ahead and be there. And, of course, Professor Stein says, nope, hate it. The guy who created that boat should be shot, which is a great nod to him being in the movie Titanic.
I forgot all about that. Is he the captain? What is he on that?
Nope. He's one of the people who invested and created helped build. So he's pretty much saying he should have shot himself, because that's kind of what the joke is. And I really like that joke. And of course, Billy Zane was a character in Titanic. So it was a little Titanic reunion here on Legends of Tomorrow, which was great. But they do decide to go to Wisconsin, 1870, to Barnum Circus, where there's a level 1 amalgamation, which they soon find out is a saber-toothed tiger. Hilarity ensues as they try to go ahead and take care of the saber-toothed tiger because, well, guess what? Even though Jeff might not agree, this was, they are trying to save the greatest show on Earth, which I'm talking about, of course. The Barnum Circus, not Legends of Tomorrow. And in the process of being rushed, and again, this could have easily been solved if Nate just left the door closed while Ray configured his Shrink Ray. But no, they had the gate open. He's rushed, accidentally makes the saber-tooth tiger big, and as a result, causing the amalgamation score to go from 1 to a 4. And that continues throughout the show as he... as more and more of what they're trying to do to save this timeline, they are making the amalgamation much, much worse. But after they find out that the tiger is loose, Sarah says, you know what we need? We need some animal action in here. And I'm not talking about that weird stuff. She decides, I'm going to go back and go get Amaya because she has her totem and she'll be able to go ahead and handle the situation without telling anybody. And it causes a little rift between Nate and Amaya, which is perfectly fine. That little bit of tension is always fun. And Amaya and Sarah go out to capture the saber-toothed tiger. But during that time, Nate is so bummed out, he decides to get drunk with the boys, and he shows off his powers, which P.T. Barnum is there to notice and watch and enjoy, and decides to... Even though I don't know how they're trying to make him in the show, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, but he captures Ray and Jax as they are friends of the Metal Man, and put them into his big show. During that time, they do capture the tiger, or the saber tiger. And Sarah at some point notices that they are being watched as well by his name. Why is his name escaping me? Gary from the Time. Good old Gary from the Time Bureau is watching them the entire time. And again, comedy ensues as they do, as Jax and Ray come out into the PT circus, Barnum Circus, as conjoined twins who cannot juggle, which I do love. I do love that. And eventually, Agent Sharp gets called into this whole scene. And I know I'm a little off by this, but I believe Sarah and her have a fight.
Oh,
right?
Huge fight, yeah, kick-ass fight.
Yeah, fight. They have a great fight that leads to them taking a break, which was my favorite part of the show, was them taking a break after getting into a big fisticuff. But in the end, they do show off their powers in front of P.T. Barnum. They save the day by capturing the saber-toothed tiger, and everyone is happy. But during that whole time, Agent Sharp did let something slip in the most ridiculously corny way. Oh, Rip doesn't. I don't understand what Rip thinks that you guys can actually take on this bigger bad guy that apparently that she cannot say the name of, which was really dumb, but whatever. Again, the show is dumb. But they do find out that they have bigger plans after saving the circus, which is, of course, after saving the circus, goes to P.T. Barnum's advantage, as he promises more adventure, more excitement as the circus moves on. The show ends with them laughing about this bigger threat. Amaya deciding to stay for a bit because we do find out that she left to go back to 1942 because she wanted to make sure that her granddaughter, who ends up being Vixen on the show, does get born, does actually become a thing and becomes a hero. In order for her to do that, she feels she has to go back to her own timeline, I guess, so she can get busy with somebody and make some babies, and then eventually make Vixen. So I'm assuming that's why she's like, I got to get busy with some people and make sure Vixen happens. So that's why she goes back in time. And we do end the show with kind of a little teaser to a woman in a lake by the name of Kawasa, who apparently is a character from the Vixen cartoon series. So she was a character that died in the Vixen cartoon series, and this Mollis follower was able to bring her back to life. So apparently death is not a thing still in the comic book universe. And we see that, hey, we have another Malice follower.
Thank you. Let me introduce now who's joining us for the rest of the show from Arrow Squad, Cammie Ray. Thank you, Cammie.
Yay!
Oh. Thank you so much for being here to talk about the last two shows with us.
Thank you for having me here.
So let me share some chat things before we get into it. Old Titans, who is actually our buddy John Paul Estes, who was on the show with Cammie last month. He says Legends the best of them all because he knows because he loves it and he knows I hate it. So we have a nice fun chat about that. Lister's mate says I did like the "Let's bring the circus to the circus" line. Yes. But then he says, I honestly wish they would have done a better homage to P.T. Barnum than what they did. I mean, after a 140-year run the circus, you'd think they show what an impact it had. Okay. All right, good. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, folks. Going to keep chatting away there. All right, so, Francis, what are we talking about first with Legends?
I guess we should talk about... let's just talk about the amalgamation in general. It was a nice...
Saber-tooth tiger thing?
The saber-tooth tiger and the connection to the circus. I love circus. I love that Rory had fear of clowns as well. But I like the circus. I really like this representation of it because it's really tiny. It's really small. You never think about that. You think of the big tents. You think of the acrobats. You think of that stuff. And it was a freak show, just like the title of the show is. And you forget about that. And I really love that there was this emphasis on, hey, we have all of these freaks that we're going to show you on in the circus. So I really like that a lot.
In the chat, Carrie says, are we talking Legends? Yes, we are. He says, Doug the Robin Peekaboo cameo. Was there a Robin thing in this? A reference to Robin? Dick Grayson, was there? I missed it if there was. Carrie, tell us what that is. That would, I mean, Robin, obviously, he was in the circus. That would make sense, I guess, if they tried to slip something in there.
If they had some, what do you call it? Gymnast or something. Not gymnast. What was he? Trapeze artist.
Yeah, trapeze artist. So anyway, Cammie, what did you think about the whole P.D. Barnum, the circus thing, and all that stuff? And
I just thought the setting was so fun, and it was such a perfect place for Legends characters to really thrive. It was a good, I mean, they can go anywhere, right? And that is like, I wouldn't have even thought of it ahead of time, but that's like one of the most ideal environments for them to really thrive. A lot of the powers that may seem like out of place or shoved in other locations or other plot settings were like perfect here. So the whole concept of visiting a freak show, just in general, just the concept for the whole episode, I think is genius. And it's a nice way for them to take that sort of Legends cheesy fun attitude and really celebrate it. Cheesy in a good way. In a good way.
I'm with you 100%.
It's a good place to let it thrive. It's a good place to kind of create. I mean, there's just something so that showmanship that comes with a circus, with a freak show, with any sort of like, it comes across as like a metaphor for the Legends crew themselves, sort of this traveling show, right? And it was just such a fun environment. I think it's fun to watch. I don't keep up with Legends the way I keep up with some of the other shows, and it's one of those episodes that felt like this is what you want to watch. This is the episode you want to tune in for this season. So I was pretty pleased I got to talk about it.
Oh, good. Well, no, I'm happy you're here to talk about it. I don't want to watch any Legends episodes at all, but I have to for the show. In the chat, O Titan says, "Wannabes, flying Graysons, and clowns. Oh my!" And then Carrie tells us about the Robin thing. In the establishing circus scene, there was a green and red clad acrobat flip and blink, and you missed it. Oh wow!
Oh, okay.
All right,
that's cool.
That is a reason to go see that scene again.
So Jeff, let me ask you then. Since you're not necessarily Legends' biggest fan.
Correct.
We've discussed this, but were there highlights or sort of like favorite moments for you from this, or did you like the idea? Okay.
Thank you for asking,
hit me with your highlight.
I do want to try to mention some positive things when I talk about Legends from now on, so it's not all negative. Because I don't actually like talking about negatives. I rather talk about the nice things.
Okay.
Sure.
But I'm also going to tell you what I really think.
Okay.
So what I loved, the best part of the scene, was the fight between Sarah and Ava Sharp.
Yeah.
Like, I was afraid they were just going to have Sarah kick her ass, and that was going to piss me off. But they had her totally go toe-to-toe with. They never have anybody go toe-to-toe with Sarah like that, usually.
Right.
They were equally matched. It was a really good, well choreographed fight, and I love like martial art fight scenes. It was really good. I did love the part about the break. I actually thought that was one of the things that actually did work as a funny moment in the show, which is great. Because I kind of like the idea that they're enemies, but they're kind of like maybe grudgingly winning each other's respect.
Right.
They're not really enemies, though.
I know, but kind of they are, right? And Ava's obviously treating her very much like, dude, you guys should absolutely not be doing this. You need to be like either locked up or just get back to your own time, and stop screwing things up. I like that a lot. That was cool. So I love actually that character Ava. Like I think that's the best thing about Legends right now. I hope they use her more. Oh, I'm sorry, it is, dude. Like she is the best thing about Legends. That's cool. That's a problem. You're right. That's a problem when none of the main characters are the best thing about Legends. So I would love to see more of her. I hope they keep using her in the show.
Yeah.
Let me see here. In the chat, Titans, most important scene of the episode, seeing the time trapper tease at the end. I don't know what that is either.
Kawasa. I think maybe Kawasa's the time trapper. Or no, the person who resurrected her from the ocean.
So what's a time trapper? Yeah. I don't know what that is.
That final little end bit.
Yeah, but what is a time trapper? Who is that? Is that somebody in comics? I don't know who that is.
It would be somebody in the comics. I couldn't.
Oh, okay. So, Titans, John Paul, tell us because he knows everything about the comics.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like a resident guru.
Those tie-dye binders that you put your papers in when you're in your school.
Trapper Keeper.
Oh, Trapper Keeper.
Okay, if that's what she really was, I would actually love it. That's another great thing they should do. Okay, the other thing I liked.
Legends is missing.
The other thing I liked about this Legends episode is I liked the Nate Amaya scenes.
Yes.
Like the opening scene was cool with the donuts and like she was making him. She was being nice, trying to make him like from scratch stuff, and they had some nice like, oh, my mom just did this. So that was like good, and it actually shows me that they actually can write dramatic scenes that work pisses me off more that they choose all the time not to and do stupid shit. So that was cool. I actually thought, though, the reason she left really pissed me off, and I thought there's no way they're going to come up with a reason that worked, and they did. So I'll give them credits for that. Like, I actually believed the reason she gave for why she did it. So there you go. There's two things. The rest of the thing was total nonsense, as far as I'm concerned. But those two things I liked.
What about the? Yeah, all right, that's fine.
So you are a Nate and a Maya shipper, right?
I'm like, it's not like it's the I have to have it happen. I don't have to have anything happen in Legends except for it to be canceled. But I'm sorry, folks who love Legends. Like,
you're a Legends of Tomorrow and cancellation shipper.
Yes. By the way, let me say this. If you, I know Carrie and Old Titans, they love Legends. If you love Legends, I think that's great. I totally respect any. If you love the show, that's awesome. I don't have to love it to be glad that you love it. You know, obviously, it's not. Some people don't love Arrow like I love Arrow. You know, I don't watch that. So
I think that's cool. What makes the whole like DC universe kind of magical is they're able to kind of balance a bunch of different interests. So people that maybe wouldn't normally love the same universe may love the same universe because of different groups of characters.
Yeah. So if you're digging that show, I think that's great. Like I think we all have different tastes, and I think that's great. And we should embrace the differences and stuff. I do think Knight and Maya are cool, kind of as a couple. I'm down with that though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Titans chimed in with an explanation for us.
Oh, let's see here. Main villain of the Legion of Superheroes, Master of Time. The Mollusk's follower looked exactly like the time travel, so maybe that's the main villain. And he, Titans, he loves the Legion of Superheroes. Like, he totally wants that to show up.
And Mollusk is a made-up character. It's not, he doesn't exist in the DC universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's just a character made specifically for the show, so it's probably a red herring for who the main villain is. Just so you don't know, and it's probably going to be Time Trapper. That'll probably end up being the main villain. So, yeah, all right, that works. So you weren't a fan of what about Billy Zane as P.T. Barnum?
I like Billy Zane. That was cool.
I think he did a really good job, kind of portraying. He was a little swarmy, but at the same time, it was just all showmanship. Like he's just trying to show off, trying to just make the best show for the people who are spending their nickel, I guess, or however much it costs to get into the show. But I do love that P.T. Barnum didn't end up being really a villain at the end, even despite the fact that he did capture Ray and Jax. But otherwise, he was just kind of, he was just desperate to save his circus. So I get that. But I really do like that. And again, that Titanic business, that made me laugh. The Titanic thing, I laughed out loud hearing that because I knew I had watched Titanic recently. I'm like, oh look, there's Professor Stein just sitting there eating dinner with Jack and Rose. Like, all right, that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of fun. So,
I wish I remember that. Yeah, that would have worked a lot better for me.
It's those little bits of attention to detail of those things that I think make this show. It breaks that fourth wall a little bit, but at the same time, it is fun. And I get why you don't like it, but I think that's why I like it because it does a little bit of that fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, I think to the credit of Legends, and I'm kind of between the two of you. I don't really love Legends. I also don't hate it, but it's the show I'm most distanced from, I guess, in the DCCW quad. But I think that one of the things that kind of helps balance out the show's sort of like cheesiness and sort of throwing care to the wind in terms of like continuity and plot holes and stuff is that it is willing to do like layered heroes and layered villains. So if you contrast it with, for example, like Flash this week or any week, Flash is extremely like a villain is either terrible or villains are terrible, heroes are good, doesn't matter what Barry does, he always has to be considered a hero, doesn't matter what the villains do, they're always the bad guy in this situation, you're one or the other. If you have a dark side, you have to defeat that dark side. It's extremely like very split. Like this show would make sense to a 6-year-old type of thing, whereas if you go no offense, no shade at Flash, like I watched, it's fine. Whereas if you go to Legends, they are willing to explore flawed heroes who aren't actively always trying to squelch all their flaws, and villains who are not really fully just bad guys. They just have motivations that we don't share. Like I'm not here trying to save a dying circus, so I'm not behaving like P.T. Barnum. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that about it. And to me, maybe it doesn't fully balance out the sort of like cheesiness, but it helps it get there to the place where we can like relate to these characters despite the plot.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, with the format of Legends of Tomorrow, it isn't more or less a villain of the week than it is kind of just a situation of the week.
Yeah.
And then you have this overall season-wide villain that you have to take care of. And I think that's what allows these villains to flesh out a little bit more, and you get a little bit more of their backstory. While, you know, like, for instance, The Flash this week had a Kilgore who you're thrown, like, here's the cliff notes of why he's a villain and why he's evil, when he didn't have to go that way. He didn't necessarily have to do that. He had powers that could that could have done something completely different. So it's it's that whole black and white when it comes to villains versus heroes in the other shows. And even in Arrow, you have characters that aren't always necessarily, their intentions don't necessarily make them villainous. They're just doing villainous things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thankfully. Yeah.
In the chat, Lister's may give us some interesting information about circus stuff. He says Aang and Yang were actually conjoined brothers, and they were real, I guess. I guess were they in P.T. Barnum's in Bailey Circus?
Apparently.
Yeah, and he says they were in the mountains of North Carolina, about 30 miles south of where he lives in Virginia. He's been to their grave several times. It's interesting.
Wow, that's so cool.
Again, little things like that.
Yeah.
Although he does say that the way they showed was off base. Well, they didn't really show them, obviously, right? They were just showing Jackson. What's this? Ray has supposedly conjoined twins.
There's a lot of names to remember, Jeff. I understand.
Oh yeah. Let me ask you guys this, because the other day I kind of realized I think after watching this one, this is my main issue with this show. Okay. And it kind of spurred off with the end there where they were all laughing. So they got this big new bad villain, and every single character laughed about it like it was a total joke, right? Now, I want you to imagine Professor Stein back on Flash. I don't know, season 2, I think maybe, or whatever it was. And no, he wasn't. Well, whatever season, maybe it was. I don't care. I don't remember. I mean, I care. I don't remember. I'm sorry. You might be right.
Go on.
Let's imagine them in Star Labs talking about this big bad like Savitar or Zoom or somebody, right? And now imagine Professor Stein just laughing about that's such a total joke, right? That would never happen, right? Like, and none of those characters would laugh about it like it was a total joke, the big bad. So my biggest issue with Legends is they take characters that have been established in other shows and they totally are not faithful to how those characters have been established. For me as a writer, it's disrespectful, and to the viewer, I feel it's disrespectful because there are other people who created those characters and wrote them well, and now you're just saying, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and I'm not going to be consistent. And for me, when I watch something and when I try to write, I think the biggest, when you don't keep your characters consistent, I think that's when, as a viewer, like, you lose me. Like, why is the character doing something totally opposite of what you just had them doing before and not the same, you know? Like, just for me as a writer, that's what really bothers me, and that's why I think I have a big problem connecting with this.
I have an answer for that.
Okay. Oh, great. Please do.
Okay. The reason you would do that is if the first way you wrote them was bad.
Oh, well, you're right. You're right. And, and other shows have done that, you're right, like where they've taken a character, they've totally changed them for the better.
Yeah, like I think Ray is a fantastic example of that. The way Ray was written on Arrow was, I mean, I think when I tell people this, and the first time I say this, they're like, no, but like the way Ray was initially written was like Christian Grey fan fiction, some sort of 50 Shades of Grey nonsense. Like, it was bad. It was real bad. And I think we like all just sort of collectively blocked it out and try to pretend that never happened because it's like nothing like the way he's written now. But like that whole like Ray introduction, big businessman stalking Felicity thing on Arrow, that was some weird writing. Then they took him over to now they took him to Legends of Tomorrow, completely did a 180 with his character. He's almost unrecognizable in terms of like writing on paper, other than the same actor and, you know, the same superpowers and stuff. And it's so much better. It's a huge improvement because they took what wasn't working for that show. Now, I will say, sometimes they take a character that was written well, but it wasn't somebody that can stay on that show. Like, either they were intended to spin off or they just didn't fit the show or whatever. So, like, Sarah, for instance, nothing pretty, you know, like, I guess it depends on how you interpret Arrow, but there were some moments where she's written fantastic on Arrow, right? And she's a little bit different now, maybe a lot a bit different now. But she wasn't fit to permanently stay on Arrow, so we had to kind of like, she had to be reframed to fit, you know, permanently, semi-permanently, whatever, on Legends to fit that new dynamic. So I don't know, it's tough. I know when you liked the original version, and I think with Legends, I there's quite a few of them that I like the original version better, so that can be really annoying. But I think that's the reason why they changed it, even if we don't like it. And I think more characters than not, I probably agree with you on not liking that change.
And I think also in the sense of the scope of all of these shows, you know, Arrow and Flash, it's much more personal, the kind of villainy that they're experiencing. You know, the threat is immediately to them and their family and their friends. It's to their city. You know, in Legends of Tomorrow, it is a much bigger scope that is so ludicrous if you think about it. They're literally saving all of time and space. Like, that is the goal of the Legends of Tomorrow, is that their grand scheme is, we need to prevent people from destroying the universe all the time. You know, those are the first two seasons that we need to prevent them from destroying a timeline, or we need to prevent them from destroying reality. That was their goal, and then they end up destroying time anyway. They end up breaking time anyway. And so for them to, I think the laughter at the end was actually really understandable, because they've done what is considered the most ridiculous stuff, the dumbest things that any superhero has ever done. And for them, it's like, well, this is just another walk in the park. We've already done some stupid things with a bunch of super powerful villains. Here's another one. And for Stein to laugh at that, I think that is appropriate, because he's seen a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of weird things that none of the other people from the other shows have done. He's done a lot. All of them have done a lot more, I think, character-wise, that it's not that they don't take it seriously. I think for them, it's just like, oh, here we go again. Like, here we go, being the only people who can save all of time and space. I think in that kind of mentality, the writers have it right. Like, it is ridiculous, it is dumb, and that's the one thing that I think, you know, that people who are watching the show are still, who don't like it, just cannot grasp. And I get it; they shouldn't have to. But it is a dumb show. It's a dumb.
Oh yeah.
But that's what makes it. It's just everything about it is dumb. But it's fun.
In the chat, Old Titan says, where I disagree, Sarah was never written well. Ray wasn't developed. Mick actually has a character now. Stein, well, you might have a point, except he has been connected to Jax for a long time. Yeah. That's true. That could change the way he is. It's a fair point. Cool. Well, thank you, Cammie. That's actually that's a good answer that explains those things. I mean, I guess you're right. It depends on what you thought about the characters before. Because it's interesting. Unlike you, me, and actually I think Mark's my usual co-host, we actually really liked the original Ray on Arrow. We liked that.
Oh, really?
We liked that. Yeah, we liked that he was super smart. At least I did, and that he ran a company and he really knew what he was doing. I guess I didn't get any the weird vibes from. So Mark's brings this up, and I do too. Like, our problem is on Legends, he seems like a dummy. Like, he wasn't this tremendous genius, technological genius that he was. You know.
He's a bit happy-go-lucky on Legends, but
yeah. So, but you're right. I mean, it depends. It really depends on how, I guess, you originally thought about Ray. You know, so if you didn't like him, then you're right. You are going to be cool with changing him into something else on Legends. Yeah. So that's a fair point. So yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks for sharing that. And in the chat too. Thank you, listener mate, Old Titans, everybody. All right. Anything else? Wrap up Legends?
No. Pretty again. Yeah, nothing. The fight scene great. I'm glad there was just one fight. I was afraid there wasn't going to be any fight scenes in this episode, because it wasn't a call for any, and then they were able to fit one in. So I'm like, okay, good. Thanks.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's one of the best they've done, I think. Just give me that. Give me Sarah and Ava fighting every episode. That's all.
It'll happen.
And I'll come around. All right, let's do some ratings, right? We do this on a 4-scale system. We do Gideons. So 4 Gideons would be the maximum rating for this episode. Cammie, what would you give it?
On a scale from 1 to 4.
You can do halves too, by the way, if you want.
What now?
You can do halves. You can do 3.5, 2.5 if you want as well. It's up to you.
Okay. I'll give it a 3.25.
3.25. All right. 3.25 Gideons. Francis, what do you give it?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I'm giving it a 3.5, mostly with that bit at the end when Gideon equally throws some shade at Ava. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
Gideon really does not. It's weird. It's a little weird. Because she was usually loyal to Rip, and now it's totally to Sarah and the gang.
Well, she's loyal to the captain.
Yeah. All right.
So,
3.5 Gideons.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys really liked it. Cool. Well, I gave last week's a 1. This one was better than that. I guess. Just because the fight scene alone, I'll have to give it higher than that. And there was some Maya, Nate, good stuff. So it's not that good. 1.5.
Oh. Even I was kind to the Flash after.
No, you were not. You gave the Flash 1 last time.
2. Well, no, I gave 1 last week.
Yeah.
I gave it 2.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, we got one more show to talk about, which is Supergirl.
Yeah.
And Cammie, you all cool doing a little intro to Supergirl?
Sure.
Awesome.
So I'll just go ahead and give a quick overview and then pepper you guys with bunches of questions about what you thought about it.
I'll be back in 1 second, but you go ahead, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool to go through the summary? Yes? All right. So, Supergirl this week was called Triggers. This episode is pretty cool. So, we had a new villain this week, one we hadn't seen before, focusing on mental torture, which I think was really interesting because kind of one of the things that is a pretty consistent characteristic of Supergirl, both on, I guess, this show and a lot of incarnations of Supergirl, is she's got a pretty good... in the metaphor, head on her shoulders. So having that be messed with was, I think, really interesting and made Size, the name of the villain, a pretty formidable villain for her. So context of what's sort of going on around this in the episode, we kind of kick off the episode with a bit of domesticity. So Alex and Maggie are, real happy, but they're kind of having a conflict about a DJ or a band at their wedding. So we start off on a bright note so that we can take it dark real fast. Because, it's like just a little bit in and all of a sudden Supergirl's having villain-induced panic attacks, right? So that's the kind of torture this villain is bringing to the board. She is... her method of fighting is fear, right? So her name's Sai. It's psychological torture. But by the time we get to the end of this episode, we see that the main word she's focusing in on is fear, which initially I was like, sign me up. This sounds cool. This sounds interesting. We've already seen Supergirl can pull off some really good, fight sequences physically. Let's see her take on a mental challenge, especially because going into this, just some background context from the first episode, we see that Supergirl's in sort of a questionable place mentally, I guess, after losing and I use this term very loosely, the love of her life.
Agreed.
Yeah. I hope there's just air quotes all over there, but we're going to go right past it. That's what she lost. So she's in a dark place, right? Yeah. And so this villain comes in at a certain time where, it's a roadblock for her to get through, but hopefully this is a way for, and this does happen by the end of the episode, it's a way for Supergirl to kind of get back control of what she's been so stressed about. So she goes through this episode really thinking that what she's seeing, so the villain induces sort of panic visions, right? Yeah. And what she thinks she's seeing is sort of herself coming to Earth, from Krypton in the little pod. But by the end, I'll spare you the whole discovery. By the end of it, oh no, what she was actually seeing was Mon-El. And she thinks she killed Mon-El because, as you might recall, by the end of last season, she, in an attempt to sort of save him, there's a whole season backstory there, don't worry about it, she packs him off in a pod and shoots him off. So that's what she's seeing, and she's worried that, he's dead, right? That's supposed to be her biggest fear. And that's where it all comes to a screeching halt, right? We had a good villain. We had an original concept. We have other side stories going on where Lena Luthor bought her company. A Luthor bought the company that a super is working at. And that's not the highlight of this, so, and it all comes to a screeching halt when we realize this isn't some like deep unfoldable trauma that she's seeing. She's seeing the end of last season and Mon-El dying. So there's a really great moment there when that happens. It's not all bad. Her sister comes, her sister talks her through it. She's able to kind of like get through her fear. And then there's a standoff with her and Sai, where Sai's torture no longer works. Kara quite literally headbutts her. Mm-hmm. It's a bit cheesy. Mm-hmm. It's a lot cheesy. Mm-hmm. At that point, we were all sort of like, but it's about Mon-El though. So like, you already lost us 2 minutes ago, but it's okay. And, yeah, there's another side story there that, like, it doesn't really tie along to what Kara's going on with, but it is very interesting, where they're going with a character they just introduced this season. Hope this isn't spoilers to call her Rain, but we have Samantha Rain. She has a daughter, Ruby. We see in the premiere that Samantha may have some powers. And Ruby, her daughter, now thinks she has powers, and Samantha's kind of going out of her way to show her daughter that she doesn't have powers, don't expose me, shh, stop drawing this, all that, right? So that goes on. Ruby basically puts herself in danger, trying to, like, get her mom to expose herself as having powers. I know, your face, me too. I feel you. So the girl puts herself in danger.
I'm going to disagree with you guys again this time. All right, cool.
Good. We need a good fight. That's right. Yeah. So the girl puts herself in danger. The mom tries to not expose her superpowers. That kind of goes on all episode. Sam kind of like, we see she's kind of working through it at the end. There's a little bit of an ominous garage sequence. But that's what's going on with that story. There is some interesting interaction, again, for the second episode in a row between Alex Danvers and Samantha. Very excited about that. Asterisk, especially excited about that because sadly we know that the Alex and Maggie thing might be kind of on its way out. Mm-hmm. Spoilers, yeah, we're good. Are we good with spoilers here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We've talked.
Alex and Maggie is, like it was great while it lasted, but sadly, that's so the Samantha and Alex thing is starting to happen. We've got something going on there, but it's not really tied to Supergirl's story. Supergirl and Sai was the big story. Lena taking over the Luthor Corporation, that's going on too, but that conflict, what would have been the Lena and Kara conflict of, hey, you need to like show up to work and take this seriously, mostly turned into a Lena fighting with James conflict. Yeah. That was really curious. Yeah, that was really curious to me. I'm gonna go ahead and make that my first question for you guys. So,
before you do that, let me share one thing in the chat from Old Titans. He says the only real problem I had with the episode was the fact that after the first encounter, she should have been able to take Sai down from a distance, but then short episode.
Yeah.
All right, yes, please, your first question.
Yeah. So my first question there, I'm gonna build up to the villain questions. Let's start with the business and job questions, right? So we're struggling with the Kara taking her job seriously component of this, but then we also have Lena and James kind of butting heads. What's standing out to you in that storyline? What's interesting or not interesting to you there? What's working? What's not working to you there? What do you think about that world?
It's weird. It's weird.
Journalism world.
It's weird. It's not working. Stop it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I actually liked most of this episode, which I'll talk about as we get to the other topics. But one thing I didn't like is why is Lena Luthor trying to run a newspaper? Why would she have what's Samantha? Is that Ruby's mother's name?
Yeah.
Why would she have her take over running L Corp, and she's gonna go now? Her main focus is gonna be the paper. Why does she give a shit about the paper? Except that Kara works.
She only has one friend, and that friend is Kara.
Yeah.
Just because she'd be around Kara more and hang out?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That would make sense with her character.
Yeah.
She's desperate to have a friend. But the
whole...
It's
such a waste of her amazing intelligence and what she's good at,
Well, she's able to translate it into, media.
She saved the world with her genius from the aliens last year.
I think they're going really out of their way to make sure Lena and Kara have a chance to interact. Mm-hmm. And I think even the best, most female-driven shows can often struggle to write girls as friends. And so, rather than just being like, hey, we're, best friends and we're gonna like hang out a lot and talk about this stuff. It's like, hey, we need to be friends, so I'm gonna like buy your company.
Funny because they get the sister dynamic down pretty well. You know, I think they actually do the sister dynamic all right. But yeah,
Cara and Alex,
yeah, I think that's actually a really good relationship. I think they handle that really well. But part of me, again, I hope I'm wrong, but part of me thinks they're setting it up for a Lana Jimmy relationship. I think they're gonna do a hate thing at the beginning, and they're gonna.
I suddenly gotta go.
Yeah.
Because they did that, you know, it's kind of the same beats as Mon-El and Cara, right? Yeah. Like they hated each other. They
start off hating each other, and then all of a sudden they're supposed to fall in love.
Yeah, they're forced to work together. They're forced to have to deal with each other's nuances. They're forced to do these things. I have the same vibe that Mon-El and Cara had when they were doing their thing. So I have that same vibe with Jimmy and Lana. Like, okay, they're gonna butt heads. And all of a sudden, they'll agree on something, or some big tragic thing is going to happen that'll bring them together, which will challenge the relationship between them and Cara. And it's going to be, that's my guess. That's my theory so far.
Interesting theories.
Wow, I hate how much that sounds really realistic, and they're like probably going to do that.
I
don't how right
think so.
You are.
I don't think so. I don't think either of your theories are going to pan out, the Flash or this one. But we'll see. Yeah, no, you may be right. In the chat, before we get into it in the chat, listeners may responding to Old Titans that said, I don't see Supergirl or Superman fighting enemies from a distance. They rather fight them face to face. Well, that's more good for TV. Old Titan says Lex bought the Daily Planet in the comics not very long ago, so they parallel that with Lena buying what is it called? Kako.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there's also supposed to, you know, in a show with a Super and a Luthor, it's always going to come down to their relationship, right? Like, it's, you know. So I think that there's this level of innate obsession, for lack of a better word, that any Luthor would have to have with a Super, right? That's just the mandatory dynamic, whatever that may be. And while Lena and Cara are not, like, hero-villain pairs right now, perhaps, hopefully never, who knows, then there's still going to be this innate dynamic where they're kind of drawn to each other, and maybe that's how they're trying to show it. Maybe that's how they're trying to show that this is more than just, you know, like friends who want to like hang out and get coffee.
Sure. I mean, I see a little bit of the Smallville relationship. Clark and Luthor. You know?
I said last season, I think they're totally going that way. I think they're totally at some point going to wind up being enemies.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I like the friendship there. So yeah, I mean, I dig it that you're right that they're in the same place now. They can develop that more, hopefully. I don't dig the thing with, I mean, why she's fighting with Jimmy. I don't really get that. I don't know what they're doing with that. It's weird. It's really weird.
See, they've kind of got a. Sorry, did I cut you off?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, they kind of got a 2 strikes thing going on with Jimmy, like third strike, and I'm like, let me tell you what the first one was. So Kara's a hero, right? Kara has superpowers. Great, it's called Supergirl. That's the show. Then all of a sudden in season 2, Jimmy rides in and is like, hey, knock, knock, knock. Like, what if I was a hero too? Sweet idea, right? It was just really weird, right? And so that's where the whole Guardian thing came from. And like that storyline, like, disappeared. Yeah, because it was a bad idea to start with. So like, right?
So you didn't like it? So that's interesting. You didn't like that at all? I didn't think I was going to, but
was Jimmy being resistant to this idea that Kara could have something without him, that Kara could be a superhero in and of herself, and like he didn't also need to be a superhero. He didn't also need to be a hero. It's kind of, you know, like you can, this isn't even just like a gender thing. Like you can reverse the gender, go over to like Flash right now. Barry Allen is the Flash, right? And then this week we have like, oh no, you're not the Flash, we're the Flash. Aren't we all superheroes? Don't we all get a trophy? And it's like, everybody should get an identity and like do something great and like a job and stuff. But like there is only one Flash, and it is Barry Allen. And that's kind of how I felt when like Jimmy came in wanting to be Guardian and like really was like, I'm a hero too, let me be a hero. That's why the second strike now is his resistance to Lena coming in and being like a boss, you know, like that was really weird. Like, you're not also the boss, like you're chief editor, you got a promotion, like you're doing great, you do good work, awesome, but like she's Lena Luthor, she like runs the company, like we need to be cool with that and not like usurp everybody's role. I think I mispronounced that word, but you get what I'm saying.
No, you got it.
That was my issue.
All right, let me wait.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Let me share. Let me share some of the chat, and then I want to defend Jimmy. So
Yeah.
Derek Davis II. First, I think new viewer. Thank you very much for watching. Derek says we really need to see Mon-El come back. Okay, good. So there's a Mon-El fan. You get a little taste of him in each episode, I guess, when you just see like Kara's remembering him. Carrie Johnson says, "Hey folks, I'm taking a Walking Dead break. Just stop watching The Walking Dead and watch us." Just kidding. I'm back. Lena probably doesn't like Jimmy because he teamed with Soups. Lena might hate Lex, but it's still fam, I guess. Okay. And then Derek says, if they came back right after the season finale, they could have done something saying Kara was pregnant with Mon-El's baby. Oh, yikes. Yikes.
I suddenly got to go again. No, but there's also a comment in the chat saying, Lister Mate says, I didn't like how Kara dealt with finding out that Sai uses fear as a weapon and only telling Wendell at first. So that kind of leads to my second question that I had for you guys.
Win, right?
What?
Win.
What now?
He means win, right? I think is what he means.
Win, yeah.
Yeah, win.
Yeah.
He said Wendell, but he means win.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kind of ties into my second question that I had for you guys. In my summary, I think I kind of hinted at what I felt about our villain of the week, but I want to know what you guys thought of our villain of the week. What do you think of Sai?
Francis, I'll let you say that, Francis, but I must defend Jimmy first.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So first off,
Jimmy defense. Go ahead.
Not that much, because I think Jimmy's the one character they have no idea what they're doing with him, and they really got to figure it out if they're going to keep him on the show. So I totally agree with you that they want to make every character usually on these shows like have a meta power or a superhero, and that should not happen. Like I don't think they needed to make Jimmy Guardian. Felicity does not need to be a superhero. For example, she does her tech thing. That's good. And Cisco did become a meta. That wasn't really necessary either, but it's fine. It works. So I 100% agree with you. I never liked the way they wrote it. I never interpreted it as Jimmy not wanting to be part of like her super life. At least the scenes I remember is that he telling Wynn, I need something in my own life. I don't have enough right now in my own life that's making me happy. This is what makes me feel like I'm doing something important. I don't feel like I'm doing that at Catco. I understand why, because they've written like crap on Catco, what he's doing there. So like, I need to do this. Like for me personally, I didn't think that had anything to do with Kara and all about him, what he's going through in his own life. That's the way I interpreted it. I get though, like, everybody interprets it differently, obviously.
And I also think that in this case, Jimmy just felt, I understand why he felt left out, here's Lana pulling all of these meetings and stuff, and the person that she knows has been running she knows this, that he's been running the company for for the last year. And it feels like it's intentional. I feel like it's an intentional jab at Jimmy for some reason,
It's a poor way as a manager, or if a manager coming in like that. That's not the way you treat the editor of the paper. No. Like that's a bad way to set a precedent. She could have handled it better. I think that's why he got pissed. Also, somebody who just buys the paper often does not actually she's not usually there in the office running things. The editor is running things. That's what the editor's job is, and you trust them to do that. So either maybe she just doesn't trust Jimmy to do the job well,
I mean, he is new.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
But Lena really has no business being there, to be honest with you, as the owner of the company. The owner is not the editor.
Yeah, but again, go on.
Yeah, I think with Lena, there's also this element to her character where she, other than Kara being friends with her, and Kara just kind of sees the good in her because she really, really wants to, I think Lena is supposed to pretty consistently come across as at least a tiny bit unlikable at all times. I think she's supposed to come across as the type of character that's going to rub most people the wrong way. She's a Luthor, and no matter how much they try to make her good right now or at any point, they need to constantly remind you that she's a Luthor. And just like how Kara can come across as the type of person where somebody's going to meet her and within 5 seconds be like rainbows, sunshine, bunny rabbits, she's great and smiley and cute and whatever. I think Lena's supposed to be the opposite of that, where even if you meet her under the best circumstances, and even if on paper she's being a pretty decent boss or knows what she's doing, I think she's constantly supposed to, she's being fair but not likable. She's following all the rules of a manager, but maybe not coming across in the most personable way because that's part of her character. She needs to be that way.
That's an awesome point. In the chat real quick, Old Titan says, last thought before he has to go, put Jimmy on Legends, give him different abilities, problems every couple episodes, and screw things up for the better sometimes.
They definitely do. They screw things up better. They screw things up.
That was their line this week, right? That's a great point about Lena. See, I really like Lena. Like, I loved her last season. Like, I really like her as a character. I'm gonna hate to see her go bad. I think she's gonna go bad at some point. I'm gonna kind of hate to see that, but
they'll at least toy with it a lot more than they have.
The way that the storylines for Supergirl have been lately is just like they're just throwing a bunch of stuff. They're not sticking to anything that was consistent from previous seasons, and they're just really hoping something sticks. And it's worrisome that they're doing that.
No, really, I actually think they're off to their pretty much best start ever this season. Almost, I think.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no Guardian, even though he kind of committed to being Guardian last season. Now all of a sudden,
he even says in this episode, "Guardian's still important to me," but we haven't seen him.
Nothing. Right? There's nothing going on with that. There's all of these characters that existed last season. Not necessarily. I mean, maybe they'll show up later on, but not even a hint of their previous life before the season. But as for the villain, to get back to the question, as for Sai, I actually thought she was a really cool character.
She was really cool.
Yeah,
I liked her a lot. I like the actress, the way she did it. Like, that was a good portrayal.
She had a presence about her that was very that was very confident. I mean, she was the most confident villain, I think, and held it well in a way that she knew how her powers worked, and she knew that she could even. I mean, she had the confidence enough to take on Supergirl, who everyone knows is like.
Right. She didn't like even flinch once about Supergirl. She was like, "I got this."
Yeah, which I really liked. I think that this character really. One
of the best villains actually I think they've had.
I think so too, and more fleshed out than other the villain of the weeks. Actually, I think, even though we don't really know too much about her backstory, she's just kind of a selfish, "Hey, I want money because money makes me happy" type of thing. Bada bing, bada boom. Like, it's.
Cammie, what did you think of Sai?
I thought it was cool. I like that they introduced her character as inviting Supergirl to join her team. She didn't necessarily have something specifically against Supergirl. She just wanted everybody to be on her side, which I thought was really cool. And then I liked that her weapon was fear. I liked that her weapon was mind games. It's a cool villain for Supergirl to go up against, because Supergirl has, she's pretty strongly powered. And most villains that she could go up against, it's not that it's not a challenge. It's just that, we've seen her go up against such big things. It's nice to change it up and have it be more of a mind game, because as I mentioned earlier when I was sort of summarizing the episode, is that she is known for having a good head on her shoulders. She's known for being, mentally having a good moral code and being present and being there and being smart, and she's not sort of like, she's not the type of person who normally would have like a panic attack in an elevator. And so that was something interesting for them to explore, while she is already in this sort of unusual place of mental descent, right? As she has been this season, as they led her up to at the end of last season. And at this point they have to, get back on an uphill, slide away from where they sort of left her last season. I don't know. And I think this is part of it. I think this is part of it. And I think it was a necessary part, and I'm glad that it came this early into the season, so hopefully we can get her back where she needs to be. Totally agree.
In the chat, Carrie says about Lena and James. To be fair, Lena and James' friction is more dynamic for TV than if they get along. Yeah, that's true. Derek Davis says, it would be great if there was a Supergirl Arrow crossover. Well, you are certainly going to see them in the 4-parter, but I think you might mean maybe like just those two together. That's probably not going to happen. It's more likely, I think, Flash and Supergirl seem the team if they're going to do a single crossovers, right? It seems like.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. They got it. Well, what I liked about this episode is because Kara obviously has been very depressed about Mon-El, understandably. And she's been pushing everybody kind of away, right? And just focusing on being Supergirl and not Kara. What I liked about this episode, though, is like we finally really got to why. And she, like, with the whole thing with the fear and the confinement and that Mon-El was trapped in the ship, right? Like, she finally lets all that all out. And so for me, it was finally like, okay, I totally get it. I totally get why she's been acting the way she is. It makes total sense about what happened to Mon-El and the way she had to send him away. Like, okay, I'm totally fine with what they're doing here. And yes, I agree with you now, though. I think that was the moment she had to have to now get back to more of the Kara we're used to seeing,
But I think that happened last episode.
I thought it did too. But you know what? That was a bad way to do it, because they just showed her in the bar at the end saying, "Ha!" And they didn't even say anything. They just showed it with music, right? Yeah. This was a much more meaningful way dealing, with I think the episode's called Triggers, actually, you know?
Yeah.
Like dealing with things that trigger these mental things. That's actually kind of an important thing to explore. This is actually a bit of a social issue that I like the way they did it with. We talked about them being on the nose too much sometimes, but and I don't know. So I think this was a much more powerful way to deal with it and why she can move that forward from it.
Because at the end of last episode, it's sort of a promise of her trying to get better, and this episode is her taking a step towards that. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
No, you're fine, and I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is her finally admitting what the problem was to begin with, because I guess she never really knew. I mean, that's the implication, is she never really knew what was holding her back, and so now it's out in the open. The only problem I had with that, though, is now that she had the quote-unquote truth, she no longer was affected by Sai's power. I didn't like that at all. I thought it was ridiculous, because it's not like
she was able to. Yeah, it was. She probably shouldn't have been able to that easily get through it, but they needed her to defeat Sai. So.
Well, I think there could have been a lot of other ways to do it. I think it was a very cheap way of doing it. I feel like that takes me out of the show. You know, if they do these Deus Ex, I can do whatever I want, Machina stuff, like the power of love is why I don't get affected by your fear.
It's
anymore.
Great who you lose in the new song, by the way. Power of love.
Yeah. But I think it lessens. I guess it lessens the stakes, and it just lessens, I think, the story overall. If you can just simply, I now know something, and therefore I am not affected by your power. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Especially because I think in that moment, the truth, the thing she now knows, was not really truth that put us in a particularly forgiving headspace. Like, you know, what we originally thought it was like, that's kind of a big deal, is if you're having sort of flashbacks to your childhood and potentially the most traumatic event where you could have, you know, been abandoned by your parents, sent all this way, you know, it's like, okay, we get it. Like that's your biggest fear. Like, cool. We're here. And then it's like, no, my biggest fear is that this guy I dated for a couple months might be like dead rather than back at his alien planet. It's like, all right. Go headbutt your villain now. It's cool.
Well, so why don't... But first in the chat, Carrie says, how come no one used long-range weapons? Snipers take Sai out from a distance. And why does Manhunter get the Wally West dumped on treatment? I said that earlier about Flash. I have bunches of issues. And then Lister's Mate says, I hope Livewire shows up. Livewire's been in, I think, every other season, so she probably will. I would imagine. So
Livewire's currently on Designated Survivor.
Oh.
Wait, I watched Designated Survivor. Who does she play on that? Do you know?
Doesn't she play? I believe her name's Emily.
Oh, I gotta check that out because I love that. I love that show.
Am I missing? Am I crossing two Supergirl villains? Am I thinking of like Quicksilver or something?
Oh yeah. Okay. I know who you mean. Yes,
the White House
chief of staff.
On Designated Survivor played a villain on Supergirl.
Yes, she's not Livewire. She played. I'm not gonna remember. She played a different villain on Supergirl before. Then she went on to Designated Survivor. Yeah, I know exactly who you mean. I'm gonna have to look up who the villain is she played.
Natalia Ricci is her name.
Yeah,
she played Silver Banshee.
Yeah, Silver Banshee. There you go.
There you go.
Nice teamwork, everybody.
Yes.
So I don't know. I guess I still think it's somewhat. I think it still is tied into her stuff from my childhood, working into this as well. But I guess I was okay with it because, I mean, look. Okay, so maybe. I'm not sure exactly how long they were supposed to be dating, but this is the way of TV, right? The fact is, she was in love with him, right? At least that's what that's what they portrayed to us, and I'm going to believe it. I'm going to accept that. So since she was in love with him, I had no problem accepting that is that traumatic to her. You know, if you choose to send the person you love away and you think they're dead, they're dead. And it was your choice that did it, not like some out of your control force that did it. You know.
Okay, so were there any other highlights or lowlights from the episode for you guys?
The kid.
The kid.
Wait, you didn't like Ruby?
Highlight or the low light for you?
I like Ruby.
She's a precocious kid who decides, I'm going to go ahead and allow myself to be in danger just so that I think, maybe,
that's
possibly.
That's what kids do.
No, I don't
care. You know who does do that? You know who does that? Lois Lane in the Superman movie, the original Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't like that either, though. You know, I mean, it's still. But you know what, though? Superman had proven powers. There's no proof that her mom has powers.
Yes, there are. She lifted that whole thing. That
she tried to bend a thing, and she.
No, but Ruby didn't see that. And she just saw her lift. But it wasn't a car. By the way, it wasn't a car, which is crazy enough adrenaline. It was this huge. I don't know what the hell it was, girder or something.
It was. Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I didn't like the kid doing
First off, she obviously has superpowers.
And I, yeah, but I mean, we know this because we know she'll be Rain. But yeah. My problem with, and I have this problem with most children in television, starting with Wesley Crusher and Next Generation, is they don't write kids well. Like
Carrie Johnson just said in the chat, no show does kids well.
No show does kids well. And here we are. We have this child who gets beat or she punches a kid in school.
Wait a minute. Stranger Things.
Okay, Stranger Things.
Stranger Things does kids well. I'll give you that.
I got these good counters today.
Okay, okay. Network television.
Oh, get out of here!
Stranger Things returns.
Yeah.
Season 2 this weekend.
Is it this Friday, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so you have like the one good example of when children.
I got plenty of other examples. That's just the first one that came into my head.
But most of the time, much like with William in Arrow, I don't believe Ruby is written well. I believe that she's too precocious
for one episode or 2 episodes. Give her a chance.
I know. Well, I mean, look, it is only the 2nd episode. It really annoyed me what she did to kind of find herself in danger. But yeah, otherwise, that was a low light for me. I didn't really enjoy that at all. I thought it was really dumb. But the highlight was that Supergirl ended up saving the day anyway, which was nice. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
F.
So Alex and Maggie, which has been my favorite thing about this show, their relationship. Super bummed. Yes, we do know because Floriana Lima is leaving the show that they're going to break them up. I'm going to say though, now for me at least, I know the absolute. We know the reason it's going to happen. It's over the kids thing. That Alex wants kids, Maggie does not, and I'll be honest with you, that is probably, I think, the biggest issue that would prevent 2 people from getting married. So I'm going to accept that. Like that is a legitimate reason for me why they would not get married.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think they've set that up well to be able to do that.
It sets it up for like a lifestyle difference as well. You know, it's one issue that becomes many other issues, and it's believable. And I think it's a sign of respect to the relationship that they're going to break them up for something realistic and not like, oh, like I must, go. Like I like the other side of the country better. Like,
or, I wanted a DJ and you wanted a band. So.
Yeah. This one time you wore a shirt and I really hated it. And...
No, you're right. I mean, it's nice that it's a legit reason.
And I'm guessing then even though it was funny and I thought it was actually a really humorous moment with the DJ band thing, is that supposed to lay the seeds of their inevitable the stakes get higher and higher as more and more things to argue about?
Yeah. No, I think it's really going to be the kids. You don't need anything else. When you have the difference about the kids, it doesn't matter. Like the DJ band, all that's just fun stuff to have a little funny moment, And the show, they probably want to show that they are disagreeing more and more as well. But in the chat, Listener's Mate says, I do like that Ruby punched another kid for bad talking her mama. Any kid who defends their parents is a great kid to me. She must have got some advice from Oliver Queen.
Punch her in the nose. Know what
Imagine that if she actually came back and they wrote that and they said, like, well, actually, the Green Arrow told me to do that.
That'd be great. Highlight, Kara destroying Catco property as she flew out of the
my god, she so wrecked that place.
I'm like, that'll be fun to explain later. Like that'll be a fun they'll probably just drop it or they might just make a mention, but I really hope they actually talk about that. The Samantha thing taking over, they never established their relationship, right? That Lena and Samantha.
They wanted to do as the reveal near the end of the episode.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so they didn't. There was no precursor to that. That was interesting.
It was all about, I got this amazing new job, and it pays. Yeah, no kidding, it pays well.
You're taking a multi-billion-dollar industry. Right?
What about you, Cammie? Anything else that you really liked or didn't like?
The highlights for me were more towards the beginning of the episode. I really liked I liked seeing the lengths Lena was willing to go to in order to get what she wanted just in general. I think that her character is just really fun and interesting to see on screen. I think her rise and, her rise and fall, I won't assume that they're going to make a villain out of her, but they're going to make a villain out of her. It's just really fun to, it's just really fun to see. And I would say the low light is really tied to what would be a highlight, which was the Kara and Alex moment, and Alex is kind of talking her through this, and the sister dynamic on the show is fantastic normally, but having that be because of the reveal that, like, that's what her greatest fear was, like, you gotta drop that Mon-El thing. Like, that's really dragging them down this season. Sorry to the Mon-El lovers. It's just one person's opinion.
You're not a Caramel fan?
Oh, goodness, no. No.
What they're called, Caramel.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's my favorite ship name ever, though. Caramel. It's amazing.
I mean, it's a good name. It's a good ship.
It's the best ship name ever.
It's a lovely ship name. But they're so bad. It's so bad. Like, I don't even have, like, a rival ship where it's like, no, because I want this one with this one and this one. Like, I just, like, he's just so, like, disrespectful and cocky and annoying, and he's like a giant man baby. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if I'm breaking anybody's hearts.
You're not breaking my heart. I do like Mon-El, but you're not breaking my heart at all.
And I hope they don't force another. Once she gets over it, I hope that they don't force feed another type of relationship for her. She doesn't need one.
They have like 15 backlog of romantic interest for her if they need. Like, nobody knew is necessary.
Yeah, Derek Davis says, "Boo! Mon-El will come back."
Derek, I'm so sorry. You can throw eggs at my picture on the screen.
You probably just hurt your own TV screen, though, or your monitor by doing that.
Mon-El. Yeah.
Maybe we can put in an egg effect in post over Cammie's head.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Wait, hang on. In the chat, Carrie has an interesting question. How come Kryptonians don't send their killing machines to Earth with instruction manuals? Smallville Doomsday is Exhibit A, Rain is Exhibit B.
Well, Rain was kind of a rush job. They just kind of had to, the planet was done.
That's true.
They kind of had to get out of there. But and then John gets a message from other Martian man woman or Martian
Martian man woman. What?
Wow.
What?
You know what I mean?
You want to try that one again? Rewind, erase. Retape.
Now I don't even know her name after you said that. I can't even. What the hell is her name?
I don't remember anymore.
The Martian who he had a romantic thing with. Leslie. Help me out, Cammie. Who was her name?
Magan.
Magan. Thank you. It's
Magan Moraz. Magan Moraz.
Yeah. Something like that.
She's played by Sharon Leal. Mm-hmm.
She has some. That was. I'm curious what that'll end up being. The emergency call to Mars.
Yeah.
Hope it's fun. I think that's next episode is the Mars mission. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Listener wants to know: are the makers of Supergirl ever going to do anything with the blonde office assistant? They need to develop that character a bit more than her being a slightly brainless bimbo who works in an office. That's Miss Tessmark.
Did I miss the scene? How is she?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's what she is. But I think what he's trying to get at is that they don't really give her anything to do, and he wants to see them give her more to do.
She and Mon-El were never mind. It's all coming back to me now. I get where you're coming from with that. Yeah.
No, I mean
she slept with Mon-El, but so did Kara.
Oh,
so
wait, did they have that quick thing?
Yeah. What?
Like for a second on an office desk. Like
they didn't sleep together, right? They just kind of went on one date or something. I
thought he even talks about it and says, "Oh yeah, Kara
walked in on them in like an office supply room."
But they were like kissing or something, right? They weren't having sex.
I think
they were. Yes, Jeff. That's all they were doing. They were kissing. You are right. Yep.
Well, no. Honestly, I must have blocked this scene out. I do not remember. Like, was it indicated that they had sex with their clothes off?
I think it was implied, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because he didn't think it was a big deal. To him, it was just like, I get to do this all the time when I fax him. So I think to him, it wasn't that big of a deal. Well,
all right. Yeah, Listeners Mate says
he's like a 7th grade boy.
Listeners Mate says he just wants to have some kind of life outside of the office. I just don't think that character is important to the writers, obviously. Carrie says, though, Martian Man Woman will be my Halloween costume this year. Please take pictures for us, Carrie.
Martian Man Woman.
Best quote of the show.
Dude,
all right.
Anyway.
Want to do some ratings?
Yeah.
Okay. We do capes out of 4, maximum of 4 capes for Supergirl. Francis, what do you give it?
I'll give it a good 3 capes. I really like the villain. Thought that was good, and I'm glad that she's hopefully finally over Mon-El. But yeah, overall, decent episode and had some humor. So 3
All right,
capes.
Cammie.
I'm actually going to give the same thing I gave Legends. It's 3.25 for me. It was a pretty good episode, and the little bits I didn't like actually wasn't too much of the episode, so it's good.
Yeah.
Likes the 0.25. All right, good. Listener's Mate says they were kissing in the office storeroom. All right. That's right, folks. Nobody has sex on Supergirl. Listen to me.
No.
Yep.
Doesn't happen. All right. So I will give it 3 capes. Again, I think it's another good, solid episode. I'm liking what they're doing with Supergirls for the most part this season. All right, that's the last show for tonight, folks. Before we get out of here, though, let's give some links here. So, Francis, where can people check you out?
If you want anything that I do that is podcast related, or I guess this, you can go to sinceresarcasm.net. I do a direct link to Jeff's YouTube page there. So if you ever want to see something I'm on, for some reason, sinceresarcasm.net, and I'm at AKA the other guy on Twitter. If you ever want to follow me on Twitter.
Of course, they always want to see you. And Cammie, where can people check out Arrow Squad and everything else about you?
Arrow Squad, you can find it at arrowsquad.com or goldenspotmedia.com. We review Arrow every week, and I also do live shows after Arrow over on my YouTube channel, and you can find that or me on any social media at Cammien Ray on pretty much everything.
Sweet. Marks and I actually will be guests on Arrow Squad and coming up.
Yes.
Soon. Yes.
We're pretty excited in this upcoming weekend. You guys will be chatting.
Oh, shit, that's right. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be chatting about this week's episode of Arrow with a couple of the guys from DC Action Arrow. Pretty excited about that.
Cool. Can't wait to be on. You can, of course, folks, find us at supergeekedup.com. You can find all the past shows of this show, DC Action Hour. Super Geeked Up, which is our geeky chat and improv comedy show. Our RPG gaming shows. We're actually going to be live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern to do some gaming fun. You can chat away with us then. And remember, we have a Patreon page. If you'd like to support us, we would love that and be super appreciative. It's patreon.com/supergeekedup. All right, thank you guys. Thank you to Francis and Cammie, and thank you to Clay and Susan Griffith, who were our guests earlier tonight. Remember, they have a Flash book called The Flash, The Haunting of Barry Allen, and Arrow, Generation of Vipers. You can check those out, read them, and they have some other awesome books too. You can get that all on their website, clayandsusangriffith.com. All right, cool. We will be back next Sunday, of course. Now, remember, actually, we're excited. We have David Nickel, Anatoly on Arrow will be joining us, which is cool because he was a big part of this last episode. Cammie, actually, will be back as well, guest co-hosting. Marks, by the way, was in France he's actually teaching a workshop. That's why he couldn't be there this week, but he will be back next week. And you'll see Francis again for sure on the show. I'm sure I'll pull him into. Yeah, I know. All right, thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Derek, Carrie, Listeners May, Old Titans, anybody who was in the live chat. We really appreciate you guys. And if you're watching in post, of course, we super appreciate you as well. All right, that's it. We'll see you next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, I don't know. I don't have an outro yet. I still don't have an outro for this fucking show.
Blow kisses.
Yeah. So okay, that's not good.
You tried.
Yeah, I tried. It was not good. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We will see you soon.